Beneath the surface of recorded history lie shadows that refuse to fade. Stories so strange, so unsettling, they challenge everything we thought we knew. Forgotten disappearances, cryptic artifacts, and unsolved enigmas stretch across centuries, whispering secrets that defy explanation. From ancient ruins in Palestine to lost manuscripts buried in time, these mysteries beckon with a haunting allure, daring us to question reality itself. What truths have been hidden, and what forces shaped the events we take for granted? So sit back, relax, and let's dive into 3 hours of history's most disturbing rabbit hole mysteries. On a quiet summer morning in December 1948, the sun rose over the windswept beaches of Somerton in South Australia, casting long shadows across the sand. It was here, on Somerton Beach, that a mystery began, one that would perplex investigators for decades. A man was found lying against the dunes, his posture unnervingly composed, as if he had merely drifted into sleep. No identification, no wallet, no personal items were found, save for a small scrap of paper tucked deep into a hidden pocket of his trousers. On it were the words, Tamam Shud, Persian for ended or finished, torn from the final page of a rare copy of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. The initial investigation painted a picture of an enigma in broad strokes. Who was this man? How did he die? Despite extensive inquiries, authorities could not identify him, and the causes of his death seemed, at first, mundane. Poison was suspected, though no traces were ever conclusively found. His fingerprints returned no matches. Even the clothing he wore offered cryptic hints, labels removed, tailoring unusual, and items seemingly designed to conceal rather than reveal. Every lead appeared meticulously engineered to remain elusive. Yet it was the cipher, discovered inside that same rare copy of the Rubaiyat, which transformed the case from an unsolved death into one of the world's most enduring codes. The cipher, a series of 100 or so symbols, handwritten in neat columns, defied every standard method of cryptanalysis. Linguists, mathematicians, and cryptographers attempted to decipher it for decades. Some speculated it was a simple substitution code. Others proposed it was a complex polyalphabetic cipher, perhaps even unbreakable without a unique key. Despite the meticulous scrutiny, the text has resisted translation. Adding to the intrigue are the fragments of personal mystery that surround the man's final days. He carried no documents, yet photographs and a strange connection to a local nurse suggested a private, secretive life. Annotations in the Rubaiyat hinted at personal significance, cryptic phrases written in pencil alongside the poetry, as though a message existed beyond the words themselves. Letters sent to the authorities led to dead ends. Locations mentioned were often obscure, and some names hinted at connections spanning continents, including whispers of travels or contacts reaching as far as Palestine, then a land marked by geopolitical tension. Over the decades, countless theories have emerged, each trying to fill the void left by evidence, or the absence of it. Some suggested espionage, a Cold War operative caught in the fog of global intrigue. Others proposed a tragic love story, a man so isolated that his final gesture was intended for a single, unnamed confidant. Fringe theories imagined hidden messages in the stars, or codes meant to unlock secrets far beyond human understanding. Each hypothesis attempts to impose order on a narrative deliberately resistant to clarity. What remains remarkable is how the mystery refuses to conform to a single narrative. Even modern forensic analysis, from DNA to digital reconstruction, has yielded only fragments that tantalize as much as they frustrate. Every piece of evidence seems to echo the same haunting question. Who was this man? And why was he so determined to vanish from the ordinary course of life? Was he running from something or toward it? And what truths, hidden within that cipher and the margins of the Rubaiyat, might never see the light of day? The Tamam Shud case endures not only because of the man's identity or the unbroken cipher, but because of the profound emptiness it exposes, a void of certainty in an otherwise orderly world. Even now, decades later, the Somerton cipher sits as a silent witness to history's unfinished puzzles, challenging each generation to peer into the shadows and ask the same question his final note posed in Persian: ended. But what exactly has ended? As we leave the enigmatic sands of Somerton Beach behind, the shadows of history stretch far beyond any single shore. From one unresolved mystery, our journey takes us across oceans and centuries, to a map that has confounded scholars, historians, and explorers alike. The Piri Reis map of 1513. Drawn by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis, this map depicts the known world with remarkable detail for its time. Europe, Africa, and the Americas all rendered with striking accuracy. Yet it is the southernmost portion that has sparked decades of debate, where the coastline suggests lands far beyond what should have been known to early 16th century navigators. The map was discovered centuries later in the Topkapi Palace archives in Istanbul, a fragile manuscript on gazelle skin, its edges frayed and ink faded with age. Scholars marveled at the precision of coastlines that had supposedly been uncharted. Most striking of all, some argued, is the representation of the Antarctic coastline, ice-free, detailed, and perfectly proportioned, centuries before Antarctica was officially discovered. How could an Ottoman admiral, drawing from fragments of Portuguese, Spanish, and Arab maps, depict a continent that would not be confirmed until the 19th century? Mainstream historians have offered plausible explanations. They suggest that the southern landmass may simply represent South America or extrapolated coastlines based on limited exploratory data. Others argue that Piri Reis compiled his map from earlier charts, some of which were lost to history, combining sailor accounts, sketches, and portolan maps to create a composite image of the known world. In this view, the so-called Antarctic coastline might be a misinterpretation, a projection error, or a hypothetical landmass imagined to fill the voids of uncharted waters. Yet the debate refuses to settle so neatly. Researchers fascinated by the map's peculiarities note that the coastline depicted bears striking resemblance to Antarctica's Queen Maud Land, an area covered in ice today but perhaps more accessible in ancient eras. Some fringe theories propose that the map preserves knowledge from a much earlier civilization, one capable of exploring and recording regions now hidden beneath kilometers of ice. Could there have been a forgotten epic of seafaring, a precursor to recorded history, whose maps survived only in fragments like Piri Reis's work? Even the map's annotations deepen the mystery. Piri Reis wrote that his sources included the charts of the ancients, suggesting access to documents now lost to time. He cites sailors who had navigated unknown seas, recounting voyages across vast, storm-tossed oceans. Could these references indicate voyages predating classical civilizations, or perhaps voyages conducted by seafaring cultures now erased from historical memory? The uncertainty is magnified by the precision with which the coastline corresponds to modern measurements when projections are corrected for ice cover, prompting questions that remain tantalizingly unanswered. The map's allure lies not only in the geographical anomalies, but in what it implies about human history itself. Were ancient mariners more capable than conventional history allows? Did knowledge once traverse oceans and continents in ways we are only beginning to imagine? Some suggest that the map could be a coded record, a repository of knowledge intended for select eyes, a whisper from the past that only partially survives today. It forces us to confront the limits of recorded history and to wonder how much has been lost in the shadows of time. The Piri Reis map also connects intriguingly to other mysteries across the globe. Its suggestions of ancient Antarctic knowledge echo the same human curiosity and hidden histories that surface in cases like the Tamam Shud Cipher. Fragments of knowledge, meticulously recorded yet deliberately or inevitably incomplete, leaving us with tantalizing glimpses of worlds that may have existed just beyond our understanding. Could civilizations, long vanished, have reached places we consider inaccessible, or does the map reflect the human mind's capacity for hypothesizing beyond observed reality? As we trace the delicate lines of Piri Reis's chart, we are drawn into the cold winds of southern oceans, into the realm of ice and stone that few eyes had ever seen. The map whispers of journeys that may have been, of explorers lost to time, and of knowledge preserved in fragile ink and parchment. And as we gaze upon it now, centuries later, we are left with a question as haunting as any mystery on Somerton Beach. How much of history lies hidden beneath the ice, waiting for us to rediscover it? And what truths, if any, will we ever fully uncover? From the frozen coastlines of Antarctica, we move northward, tracing humanity's fascination with the unexplained. While some mysteries lie in the distant past, others appear in the quiet, unassuming corners of the present world, glowing against the night sky. One such enigma resides in the remote valley of Hessdalen, Norway, a narrow stretch of land framed by steep hills, forests, and snow-carved cliffs. For decades, residents and visitors alike have reported strange lights hovering, darting, and pulsating across the valley. These are not ordinary lights, nor simple atmospheric reflections. They are elusive, ephemeral phenomena that defy easy explanation. The first documented sightings began in the early 1930s, when villagers spoke of ghost lights that seemed to float silently above the snow-covered fields. Reports increased in the 1980s, with hundreds of sightings recorded between 1981 and 1984, prompting researchers to establish continuous monitoring stations. The lights vary in size, intensity, and color, sometimes a pale white glow, other times deep reds and blues, moving slowly or accelerating with sudden bursts of speed. Observers describe them as intelligent, almost purposeful, yet their origin remains unknown. Scientists have sought logical explanations. Some suggest plasma formations caused by rare combinations of atmospheric ions. Others point to natural electrical discharges from the valley's rich mineral deposits. Still, no theory fully accounts for the light's unpredictable patterns or their apparent responsiveness to observers, nor their persistence over decades. Equipment left to measure electromagnetic fluctuations, temperature, or radiation has captured anomalies, yet none provide a definitive answer. The lights behave in ways that seem almost conscious, appearing, vanishing, and reappearing in defiance of conventional understanding. Adding to the intrigue is the consistency of these sightings. Over time, the Hessdalen lights have appeared in remarkably similar patterns, drawing scientists from around the world. Cameras, spectrometers, and radar systems have captured footage that is both tantalizing and confounding. Some images suggest solid objects moving in the night sky. Others appear as diffuse, shimmering orbs. Witness accounts describe hovering lights that descend to treetop level or sweep across the valley in elegant arcs, leaving observers questioning the very nature of what they saw. Speculative theories flourish in the gaps left by mainstream science. Could the lights be evidence of unknown energy sources within the Earth, slowly manifesting in visible forms? Might they be interactions between geological activity and atmospheric conditions, creating luminous phenomena previously undocumented anywhere else on the planet? Fringe hypotheses extend even further, hinting at extraterrestrial presence, though such ideas remain unsupported by tangible evidence. Yet the lights themselves, their movement, color, and timing, invite contemplation of forces that remain hidden, even in an age of satellites and constant observation. The Hessdalen phenomenon is also a reminder of how human perception and nature intersect in ways that are not fully understood. Long-term monitoring programs have recorded patterns that defy simple categorization, and some researchers suggest that observing the lights may alter their behavior in subtle ways. It is a dialogue of sorts, an interaction between observer and phenomenon, challenging assumptions about what can be seen, measured, and understood. As with the Piri race map, the Tamam Shud Cipher, and other mysteries we have explored, the Hessdalen lights exist in a space between the known and the unknown. They resist classification, hinting at hidden systems of nature or phenomena yet to be fully comprehended. They remind us that some of the most compelling mysteries are not buried in ancient archives or lost manuscripts, but unfold nightly in the quiet valleys of our world, waiting for eyes willing to look with patience and curiosity. And so, as the lights pulse and glide across the snow-blanketed hills of Hessdalen, they leave behind questions that endure as long as the phenomenon itself. What natural forces might produce such a display, and what secrets about our planet, or our perception of it, do they conceal? Are these fleeting illuminations simply a quirk of physics, or a glimpse into something far more profound? In the stillness of the valley, with the night air crisp and silent, the lights continue their dance, an invitation to wonder, and a reminder that, in the tapestry of history's mysteries, some threads remain deliberately unresolved. From the eerie luminous skies of Hessdalen, our journey through history's most perplexing rabbit holes takes us to the remote mountains of the Baigong region in what is today western China. Here, high in the mist-shrouded ridges, lies a valley that would become the focus of one of the most curious archaeological debates of the 20th century. It is a place where the line between legend and discovery blurs, and where objects seemingly out of time have provoked both fascination and skepticism: the Dropa stone discs. The story begins in 1938, when a team of Chinese archaeologists, led by Fuente, was exploring the caves of the Baigong Mountains. They discovered a series of burial sites, each containing skeletons of unusual stature, slender, small, and apparently different from the local population. Alongside these remains were round stone discs, carefully carved, each about 12 inches in diameter, with a central hole and spiraling grooves etched into their surface. The grooves appeared to contain tiny markings, too small for the naked eye to read, arranged in a pattern that suggested deliberate communication. The initial reports described the discs as mysterious artifacts of an unknown people. Local folklore spoke of the Dropa, a tribe that had arrived in the valley long ago under enigmatic circumstances. The discs, it was said, were their records, a form of storytelling or history encoded in stone. Scholars immediately noted the precision of the carvings. The spirals were uniform, the grooves exact, hinting at craftsmanship far beyond what might be expected from a small, isolated mountain community. Could these have been simply ritual objects, or were they something else entirely? As the decades passed, intrigue deepened with claims that the discs contained an undeciphered script. In the 1960s, some researchers suggested that the tiny markings were phonetic symbols, possibly a form of proto-writing. Attempts to decode them produced partial results, hinting at stories of beings from the sky and journeys across vast distances. Some accounts even described the Dropa as a people descended from extraterrestrial visitors, a theory that remains controversial and largely speculative, but which nonetheless captures the imagination. Could these discs preserve the memory of encounters with civilizations or intelligences beyond our own? Skeptics have pointed to more mundane explanations. Some argue the discs are hoaxes, fabricated in the 1930s to attract attention to a remote archaeological site. Others suggest they may be primitive astronomical instruments or symbolic religious artifacts, their spirals representing cycles of the sun, moon, or stars. Yet photographs, careful descriptions, and reports from multiple researchers suggest something unusual about the discs, something that defies easy categorization. Even the skeletal remains found alongside them appeared peculiar, with cranial measurements differing from neighboring populations, adding to the sense that these were people set apart from known history. The Dropa discs also raise questions about how knowledge is transmitted and preserved. If the markings are indeed a form of written record, they could represent one of the earliest known attempts at encoding language or memory in durable material. And if the inscriptions reference beings or journeys beyond our planet, then the implications for human history and our understanding of ancient contact become profoundly complex. Some researchers have used magnification and scanning techniques to examine the grooves in detail, uncovering patterns that suggest intentional messaging rather than random decoration. Yet the meaning, if any, remains elusive. Adding to the mystery is the story of the discs' disappearance and dispersal. After their discovery, some were reportedly stored in museums, others allegedly lost or misplaced during periods of political upheaval. Attempts to locate the original artifacts in the modern era have produced contradictory results. Some researchers report seeing them in obscure collections, while others claim the evidence may have been destroyed or deliberately suppressed. This scarcity of verifiable material only deepens the sense of enigma surrounding the Dropa, leaving a gap between tantalizing descriptions and tangible proof. The discs also intersect intriguingly with other mysteries we have explored. Like the Tamam Shud cipher, they may represent messages deliberately encoded to survive across generations, accessible only to those with the key to understand them. Like the Piri race map, they suggest knowledge that challenges conventional historical timelines, hinting at civilizations, technologies, or encounters previously unrecognized by mainstream scholarship. And, like the Hessdalen lights, they prompt us to question the limits of human perception, observation, and interpretation. Whether the Dropa stone discs are evidence of unknown peoples, lost technologies, or encounters that defy explanation, they remain a testament to the enduring allure of the unexplained. Their spirals whisper across decades, inviting inquiry and contemplation, and their presence in the remote valleys of the Baigong Mountains reminds us that history is not always linear or fully documented. Sometimes it lingers in fragments, stones, symbols, and bones, waiting for those willing to look closely enough to notice what has been hidden all along. And so the Dropa discs continue to sit quietly in the shadows of history, their grooves etched in stone, their secrets preserved in spiral form. Do they record the journeys of a people long vanished? Do they encode knowledge from beyond the stars? Or are they a testament to the human desire to leave something lasting, to communicate across time and space? The answers remain elusive, leaving us to wonder what truths about our past, and perhaps our place in the cosmos, might still be hidden, waiting for those bold enough to seek them. From the remote mountains of western China, where ancient discs whisper of forgotten peoples, our exploration of history's most perplexing rabbit holes takes us to the streets of Nuremberg, Germany in the early 19th century. Here, a young man appeared almost out of nowhere, an enigma clothed in rags, with wide, uncomprehending eyes, clutching a small bundle of belongings. His arrival would ignite curiosity, suspicion, and decades of debate over identity, upbringing, and the hidden corners of European history. This was Caspar Hauser, a boy whose life and death would leave more questions than answers, challenging historians and the public alike. On May 26, 1828, Hauser appeared in a busy Nuremberg courtyard, barely able to walk and scarcely able to speak. He carried a letter addressed to a local cavalry captain, claiming that he had been raised in near-total isolation. According to his own account, he had spent his childhood confined to a darkened cell with almost no human contact, learning only to eat bread and water and read simple words from a small book. His tale was extraordinary, a human life lived almost entirely apart from society, emerging suddenly into a world brimming with sounds, scents, and interactions completely foreign to him. Mainstream historians have tried to piece together a coherent narrative. Some suggest that Hauser was indeed a victim of cruel confinement, perhaps abandoned by unknown guardians or left as part of an obscure political intrigue. Others propose he may have been a runaway, a child of uncertain origin whose story was amplified by his bewildering behavior and the fascination of the Nuremberg public. Records from the time describe his physical stature, his delicate features, and his surprisingly quick grasp of language once he began learning, painting the portrait of a boy both fragile and capable, simultaneously childlike and oddly perceptive. Yet it is the question of identity that continues to fascinate and confound researchers. Some historians speculate that Hauser may have been of noble descent, perhaps connected to the Baden ducal family, and that his confinement was politically motivated. Letters and accounts of the period hint at whispers of hidden heirs, rivalries among European courts, and the possibility that Hauser's sudden appearance threatened established power structures. Could he have been a child deliberately isolated to protect or obscure a claim to wealth and title? Or was he simply an unfortunate soul, caught in circumstances he could never fully articulate? Hauser's life was marked by a series of contradictions. He displayed remarkable intelligence, learning to read, write, and play musical instruments in a remarkably short time. Yet he remained socially awkward and deeply traumatized. He often described his confinement in ways that were both precise and haunting, recounting long periods of darkness and silence, the oppressive weight of solitude, and encounters with shadowy figures who provided only minimal sustenance. The intensity of his isolation, if true, is almost unimaginable. A human life almost entirely erased of social contact, then suddenly thrust into the public eye. Fringe theories abound. Some suggest that Hauser's origin was not merely a matter of European nobility, but involved secretive political machinations with wider implications for the continent. Others speculate that his case offers insights into human development and resilience, an eerie example of what a mind can endure and adapt to under extreme conditions. Even modern forensic investigations, including examinations of hair and bone samples purportedly linked to Hauser, have produced inconclusive results, leaving open the tantalizing possibility of connections to prominent European families, but never confirming them with certainty. Hauser's mysterious death in 1833 only deepened the enigma. He was found with a wound in his chest, which some believed to be self-inflicted, while others argued it was the result of foul play. Questions arose. Had he been silenced to protect hidden truths? Was the boy who had survived years of isolation finally undone by human malice, or by the lingering consequences of a life lived in extreme deprivation? Contemporary witnesses disagreed, accounts conflict, and the truth remains veiled behind layers of conjecture and speculation. The Caspar Hauser mystery endures because it confronts us with fundamental questions about identity, human resilience, and the fragility of recorded history. Unlike objects or maps that can be examined under microscopes or satellites, Hauser's life exists only in testimony, letters, and the traces of memory preserved by those who encountered him. He is a living fragment of history, a reminder that even in well-documented societies, lives can emerge almost fully formed yet incomprehensible, leaving behind more questions than answers. As we reflect on Caspar Hauser, we are drawn into a broader meditation on the nature of history itself. How many lives have slipped through the cracks of recorded knowledge? How many secrets of lineage, confinement, or survival remain hidden, waiting to be discovered or perhaps forever lost? In Hauser's story, we see the same threads that run through the Dropa discs, the Hessdalen lights, and the Tamam Shud cipher. The persistence of mystery, the tension between evidence and interpretation, and the allure of what lies just beyond the reach of certainty. And so, the young man from Nuremberg continues to haunt our imagination. Who was Caspar Hauser truly? Was he a lost heir, a victim of cruelty, or simply a child of chance whose story became legend? The answers remain elusive, yet in his life and death, he reminds us that history is not merely a record of events, but a landscape of questions, some of which may never be answered, yet continue to challenge and intrigue all who dare to explore. From the shadows of Caspar Hauser's mysterious life in Nuremberg, our journey of history's enduring enigmas now carries us across continents, from the quiet streets of Europe to the vast, arid expanse of the Sahara Desert. Here, in the heart of Mauritania, lies a formation so vast and striking that it can be seen from space. A geological wonder that has sparked speculation, wonder, and debate for decades. This is the Richat structure, often called the Eye of the Sahara, a circular, concentric feature spanning nearly 50 kilometers in diameter, its rings etched in pale rock and sand, rising subtly from the surrounding desert plains. At first glance, geologists describe the Richat structure as a natural phenomenon, a symmetrical uplift formed by erosion and geological processes over hundreds of millions of years. Its concentric rings, alternating layers of rock and sediment, reflect the slow, patient work of time and nature. Yet, despite scientific consensus, the formation has inspired alternative hypotheses that challenge our understanding of human history and civilization. Could such a perfectly circular, enormous structure have been shaped in part by intelligent design, by a culture now lost to the sands of time? Interest in the Richat structure intensified when researchers began drawing comparisons between its outline and ancient maps. Some have noted the resemblance between the formation and descriptions of the legendary city of Atlantis, as recorded by Plato. The circular walls, central highlands, and radiating ridges evoke images of a sophisticated urban plan rather than a random geological formation. Could the Richat structure mark the remnants of a civilization erased by cataclysm, its knowledge and achievements buried beneath millennia of desert wind and dust? Archaeologists and historians have sought evidence of human habitation, stone tools, pottery shards, or signs of dwellings, but results remain inconclusive. A few scattered artifacts hint at the presence of ancient nomadic peoples, yet nothing definitively points to an urban civilization at the scale suggested by the site's geometry. The lack of material evidence fuels speculation rather than quelling it. How could a culture capable of constructing such monumental geometry vanish entirely without leaving more tangible traces? And if such a civilization existed, what knowledge might have been lost alongside it? Satellite imagery and aerial photography have deepened the mystery. From above, the Richat structure presents an almost uncanny symmetry. Its concentric rings form a near-perfect circle, interrupted only by subtle geological anomalies. Some researchers suggest this may indicate intentional design, whether for astronomical observation, ceremonial purposes, or even as a marker intended to be seen from above. Could ancient civilizations, far older than those documented in mainstream history, have possessed the ability to plan on such a grand scale? Or is this an illusion crafted by the human mind's natural desire to perceive order amidst chaos? Fringe theories surrounding the Richat structure extend even further. Some propose that it was a hub of an advanced, forgotten civilization, perhaps destroyed by climate change, flood, or seismic upheaval. Others suggest the possibility of extraterrestrial influence, speculating that the site served as a landing or observation area. These ideas remain unverified, yet they echo patterns found across our exploration of other mysteries, from the Dropa stone discs in China to the Piri race map of Antarctica, where evidence hints at capabilities and knowledge seemingly out of reach for their time. The formation also invites reflection on humanity's relationship with the natural world. Could the Richat structure have been intentionally chosen for settlement or ritual by ancient peoples because of its prominence and visibility? Might its concentric rings have guided ceremonies, marking the passage of time or celestial movements? Even if we never discover conclusive proof of human activity, the structure stands as a silent witness to Earth's history and to the enduring human fascination with patterns, symmetry, and the unknown. What is perhaps most compelling is the tension between science and speculation. Geological studies provide a clear narrative of uplift, erosion, and sedimentary deposition. Yet the mind cannot help but linger on the visual harmony of the rings, the almost architectural quality of the land, and the way the formation commands attention in an otherwise flat desert. The Richat structure is both ordinary and extraordinary, a natural formation that inspires contemplation and imagination in equal measure. As with the mysteries we have explored before, the Tamam Shud Cipher, the Hessdalen lights, the Dropa discs, and even the enigmatic life of Caspar Hauser, the Richat structure challenges us to question the limits of recorded knowledge. It asks whether our understanding of human history is complete, or if traces of forgotten civilizations lie hidden, waiting to be recognized by a patient eye or a new lens of investigation. Could we be glimpsing the outlines of a world long erased, glimpsed not in manuscripts or monuments, but in the patterns of the earth itself? The Eye of the Sahara remains as enigmatic today as it did when first observed by explorers and scientists. Its concentric rings, subtle ridges, and central plateau invite both awe and inquiry. Is this the remnant of a lost civilization, a natural formation shaped over eons, or something in between, a story waiting to be told by those willing to see beyond the surface? As the sun rises and sets over the desert, casting long shadows across its rings, the Richat structure endures as a silent monument to mystery, reminding us that history is not always written in books, but sometimes etched into the very land beneath our feet. From the vast expanse of the Sahara and the enigmatic rings of the Richat structure, our exploration now moves to a small, quiet village in medieval England, Woolpit in Suffolk. Nestled amid rolling hills and dense woodlands, this village might seem unremarkable, yet it became the setting for a story that has baffled historians, folklorists, and scholars for centuries. In the 12th century, 2 children appeared near the village's wolf pits, hence the name Woolpit, whose presence would ignite wonder, suspicion, and enduring mystery. These were the green children, so called for the unusual hue of their skin, described as a deep, green-tinted pallor unlike anything seen before. According to contemporary accounts, the boy and girl were found wandering the fields near the village, speaking a language that no one could understand. Their clothing was strange, unfamiliar in cut and material, and they were reluctant to eat anything offered by the villagers, consuming only beans at first. Gradually, however, the girl and boy adapted, learned English, and integrated into local society. Over time, their green coloration faded, but questions about their origin persisted. How could 2 children appear so suddenly in an otherwise ordinary village, speaking a language unknown to all around them and exhibiting traits so extraordinary? Mainstream historians have offered several explanations, attempting to reconcile the story with the known realities of medieval England. Some suggest that the children were Flemish immigrants, displaced by regional conflicts or famine, whose skin color was the result of dietary deficiencies. Others propose that their green hue may have been symbolic, exaggerated by chroniclers to convey otherness or moral lessons in the narrative. In this reading, the story becomes a reflection of medieval anxieties about outsiders, of fears surrounding famine, migration, and cultural boundaries. Yet the more intriguing aspects of the tale resist easy explanation. The children's speech, reportedly consistent and fully formed, did not correspond to any known local dialects, and the girl continued to speak it even after her integration. Their reluctance to eat typical food and their initial dietary restrictions suggest a background radically different from that of the villagers. Some historians note the precision with which chroniclers recorded these details, suggesting that the story, while possibly embellished, is anchored in actual events rather than pure legend. Could the children have originated from an isolated community, hidden from the known world, or from regions lost to time? Speculative and fringe theories extend the mystery even further. Some propose that the Green Children were from a parallel realm, a subterranean or hidden world beneath England itself, glimpsed only briefly when they emerged. Others suggest extraterrestrial origins, imagining that the children's unusual physical characteristics and unknown language might signal contact with beings beyond our world. While there is no conclusive evidence to support such theories, the story persists as a tantalizing puzzle, highlighting humanity's enduring fascination with the strange and unexplained. The tale also raises questions about perception and memory. How much of what we know comes from objective observation, and how much is shaped by narrative framing? Chroniclers of the time were meticulous in recording dates, names, and locations, yet they were also steeped in cultural assumptions, symbolic interpretation, and moral storytelling. The children's green hue may have been literal, a physical anomaly, or it may have been metaphorical, a literary device to mark them as outsiders. Regardless, the narrative preserves a sense of wonder, a deliberate tension between the ordinary and the extraordinary that continues to captivate centuries later. In attempting to understand the Green Children, scholars also confront broader questions about the nature of human experience and migration. Could isolated communities have survived in hidden pockets of medieval Europe, unrecorded in conventional history? Could their customs, language, and appearance have differed so radically from neighboring populations that they seemed almost otherworldly to villagers? Even as modern anthropology and genetics provide tools for tracing ancestry, the story reminds us that some gaps in knowledge may never be fully bridged. The Green Children of Woolpit also resonate with other mysteries we have explored in this series. Like Caspar Hauser, they emerged suddenly into human society, their origins opaque, their lives intertwined with questions of identity and belonging. Like the Dropa stone discs or the Richat structure, they suggest that the past may hold traces of worlds and cultures that elude our current understanding, offering glimpses of histories almost erased from memory. And like the Hessdalen lights or the Tamam Shud Cipher, they challenge our expectations, inviting us to contemplate the limits of observation, knowledge, and comprehension. Ultimately, the Green Children persist not only because of their peculiar characteristics, but because they force us to question the boundaries of reality as recorded by history. Their story reminds us that the world, even in the familiar landscapes of medieval England, can contain the inexplicable, the mysterious, and the profound. Could the children have come from an unknown community deep underground, or from distant lands uncharted by medieval maps? Were they refugees, anomalies, or messengers from realms we cannot yet perceive? As the sun sets over the rolling fields of Woolpit, casting long shadows across the centuries, the Green Children continue to whisper their story, a story of difference, survival, and enduring mystery. Their lives, recorded in fragments and chronicled in medieval texts, leave us with questions that remain unanswered, inviting us to peer beyond the surface of history and wonder what might still lie hidden, waiting for those who seek to uncover it. From the rolling fields of medieval England and the enigmatic story of the Green Children of Woolpit, our exploration of ancient mysteries now takes us to the dense forests and winding rivers of Florida in the United States. Here, in 1974, a family stumbled upon an object so peculiar and so perplexing that it would capture the attention of scientists, engineers, and enthusiasts for decades. This was the Betz mystery sphere, a metallic orb that seemed to defy the laws of physics, a relic whose origins and purpose remain unresolved, and whose story invites us to consider the possibility of knowledge and technology far older or stranger than humanity itself. The sphere was discovered by the Betz family on their property near Fort George Island. After a brush fire cleared part of their land, the family noticed a metallic object partially buried in the soil. It was roughly the size of a bowling ball, perfectly spherical, and composed of an unusual alloy of metals. Its surface was smooth and seemingly featureless, save for faint markings that hinted at an unnatural origin. From the moment it was uncovered, the sphere behaved in ways that challenged ordinary explanation. It appeared to move on its own, rolling across flat surfaces, sometimes seemingly responsive to the people around it, pausing and turning as though observing its surroundings. Mainstream investigators initially approached the object with caution. Scientists analyzed its composition and construction, noting that it was unusually dense yet lightweight, and that the metals used did not match typical alloys of the time. Its surface reflected light in a peculiar way, and the sphere exhibited properties of friction and inertia that defied simple physical expectations. Instruments designed to measure magnetic fields and electrical activity registered faint, intermittent anomalies, though none could definitively explain the sphere's behavior. Could it have been a carefully engineered artifact from some advanced civilization, or a natural phenomenon unlike anything catalogued by modern science? Speculation grew as the Betz family observed more extraordinary behavior. The sphere would roll without being pushed, sometimes accelerating suddenly, changing direction mid-motion, or even following family members around the room. Attempts to restrain it or confine it to a single location seemed futile. Some suggested the movements could be explained by uneven surfaces, magnetic interference, or temperature variations, but the consistency and apparent responsiveness of the sphere resisted these conventional explanations. For those who witnessed it firsthand, the sphere became more than an object. It became an enigma, a puzzle demanding attention and inviting questions about forces that might operate just beyond our current understanding. The mystery deepens when considering the sphere's possible age. While the Betz family's discovery occurred in the 20th century, some researchers have speculated that the object could be much older. Its design is unlike anything manufactured in the region, and some theories propose that it may belong to a lineage of technology predating recorded history. Could it be a remnant of a civilization lost to time, one whose knowledge of metallurgy and motion far surpassed that of later human cultures? Or might it be an artifact left by beings or civilizations entirely unknown to our history, a physical trace of an intelligence whose presence on Earth has yet to be fully documented? Fringe theories extend even further. Some enthusiasts suggest the sphere may be extraterrestrial in origin, pointing to its smooth metallic surface, anomalous motion, and resistance to standard analysis as evidence that it was constructed using knowledge unavailable to humans. Others propose that the sphere could represent a form of self-contained energy, an ancient device or recording mechanism whose full function has been lost to time. While these interpretations remain speculative, they underscore the profound intrigue that the sphere has inspired. It challenges assumptions about the limits of human capability and invites us to imagine the existence of advanced knowledge or intelligence far beyond the conventional historical record. The Betz mystery sphere also resonates with other phenomena we have explored in this series. Like the Dropa stone discs in China or the concentric rings of the Richat structure, the sphere raises questions about what has been lost in the shadows of history and what remnants of knowledge or technology may persist, hidden in plain sight. Like the Green Children or Caspar Hauser, it interacts with the human world in ways that are perplexing, almost as if the object itself retains a measure of agency. In each of these mysteries, we encounter traces of a reality that challenges linear historical narratives and conventional expectations, fragments that hint at a more complex story of Earth and its past. Scientific studies have attempted to quantify the sphere's behavior. Physicists measured its movements, engineers tested its composition, and metallurgists analyzed its surface. Some experiments suggested minute vibrations within the sphere, which could account for its rolling and shifting, yet no mechanism has been definitively identified. Others observed faint electromagnetic anomalies, hinting at properties that may not conform to standard material science. These findings raise further questions. If the sphere is indeed a technological artifact, what principles govern its behavior? Could its design reflect knowledge of physics lost to modern humans, or even principles not yet understood? The story of the Betz mystery sphere continues to provoke debate and wonder. It challenges us to consider the possibility that the Earth holds artifacts, remnants, and evidence of histories older than recorded human civilization. Could the sphere be a remnant of a civilization predating modern humanity, a witness to an era we cannot yet reconstruct? Does its existence suggest that advanced knowledge has appeared, vanished, and left only tantalizing fragments behind? And if so, how many other objects, hidden in remote regions or buried beneath soil and stone, await discovery? As the sphere rests now, quiet, inert, yet imbued with the memory of its mysterious behavior, it invites contemplation. Its smooth metallic surface and subtle markings hold no immediate answers, only questions, prompting observers to reflect on the vastness of time, the potential depth of Earth's hidden past, and the mysteries that persist just beyond human perception. The Betz mystery sphere is not merely an object. It is a doorway to inquiry, a prompt to consider what may have existed long before humanity walked the planet, and what traces of that existence remain, waiting for those willing to search, observe, and wonder. The sphere's silent presence, combined with the stories of human encounter, positions it as a bridge between the known and the unknown. Like the enigmatic children of Woolpit, the ancient disk artifacts, or the concentric rings of the Sahara, it reminds us that history is not merely written in texts or monuments, but sometimes exists in objects, subtle phenomena, and the material remnants of intelligence or craftsmanship that defy conventional explanation. In this sense, the Betz sphere is both a mystery and a message, a silent whisper from a world older than ourselves, urging us to question, to explore, and to imagine what else may lie hidden in the depths of time. From the silent, enigmatic movements of the Betz mystery sphere in Florida, our exploration of evidence that challenges the known boundaries of history now takes us across continents and into the rugged landscapes of western China. There, in the remote region of the Qinghai province, near the saline expanse of Lake Tosan, lie formations that have confounded geologists, archaeologists, and curious observers alike for decades. The Baigong pipes. These structures, clusters of tubular formations embedded in the mountains and scattered across the surrounding plains, appear at first glance as simple geological anomalies. Yet upon closer inspection, they reveal characteristics that suggest an origin far more perplexing than ordinary stone. The Baigong site, located on a remote plateau near the Tibetan border, is dominated by red, rust-colored mountains, pockmarked with triangular and tubular hollows. Within these hollows, countless hollow cylinders, pipes, emerge, some protruding from rock, others half buried in the arid soil. Their diameters range from just a few centimeters to several tens of centimeters, and some extend deep into the mountainside, disappearing from view. Their presence has been noted since the early 20th century, though detailed studies only began in earnest in the 1970s, when Chinese researchers cataloged hundreds of pipes, some arranged in a manner suggestive of deliberate placement. What makes the Baigong pipes particularly perplexing is their composition. Initial chemical analyses revealed that the pipes contain high concentrations of iron and silicon, with traces of calcium and other metals. Some tests suggest a combination of natural minerals and metals rarely found together in the forms observed. While many researchers argue that the pipes could be fossilized tree roots or naturally occurring mineral formations, the uniformity of the cylinders, their hollow interiors, and the apparent network linking some of them defy conventional explanation. Could these formations have been shaped by processes lost to time, or were they created intentionally by a force or intelligence long absent from the Earth? The location itself adds to the intrigue. The pipes are concentrated near a pyramid-shaped mountain that rises sharply above the surrounding plateau, an unusual geological formation in its own right. Some researchers speculate that ancient humans might have utilized the pipes for primitive channels, conduits, or water transport. Yet radiocarbon dating of nearby deposits suggests that if humans interacted with this landscape, it would have been tens of thousands of years ago, long before civilizations capable of engineering such structures are known to have existed. How could a network of such precise formations have come to exist in a landscape so inhospitable and remote, predating known engineering capabilities? Fringe and speculative theories abound. Some have proposed that the Baigong pipes may be evidence of ancient extraterrestrial contact, suggesting that the unusual composition and precise alignment of some cylinders point toward non-human craftsmanship. Others posit that the pipes were part of a technological system belonging to a civilization predating humanity, long lost to time, whose knowledge and constructions were preserved only in stone. Skeptics, meanwhile, argue that erosion, mineral deposits, and volcanic activity could account for many of the observations. But even they acknowledge that certain features resist simple geological explanations. The site also presents an eerie resonance with other ancient anomalies we have explored. Like the Betz mystery sphere, the pipes appear to defy ordinary physics and challenge assumptions about human capability. Like the Richat structure or the Dropa stone discs, they hint at knowledge or activity that may lie outside conventional history, suggesting the possibility of technologies, networks, or civilizations erased by time or hidden beneath layers of earth and rock. Observers cannot help but wonder, what knowledge might have been required to create structures like these, and who or what could have possessed it? Adding to the enigma are reports of patterns among the pipes that suggest deliberate organization. Some cylinders form linear arrays, others converge toward central points, resembling channels or conduits leading to hidden spaces within the mountains. These arrangements provoke further speculation about function. Could they have been designed for fluid transport, energy transmission, or a purpose entirely unknown to modern science? Is it possible that we are looking at the remnants of a system once operational, now fossilized, waiting for rediscovery? Scientific studies have struggled to reach definitive conclusions. Electron microscopy and spectroscopy have revealed complex layering in the pipes, some of which is reminiscent of metallurgical processing, yet no evidence of smelting or modern tooling has been found. Carbon dating of materials in the surrounding sediment suggests that the site is extraordinarily old, possibly extending tens of thousands of years. If human activity is involved, it predates known civilizations capable of constructing or processing metal to such precision. And if natural processes are responsible, they have produced a level of regularity and organization that remains difficult to explain. The Baigong pipes also invite reflection on the very nature of time, knowledge, and civilization. If these structures were indeed constructed, by whom or by what were they created, and for what purpose? If they are natural, what extraordinary forces could generate such regularity across hundreds of meters of terrain? Each answer, or lack thereof, stretches our understanding of history and prehistory, forcing us to confront the possibility that Earth's record may be far more complex than the stories preserved in written chronicles or visible monuments. Ultimately, the Baigong pipes endure as silent witnesses to mysteries that may predate humanity itself. They remind us that some questions are not answered through observation alone, but through reflection, imagination, and the willingness to consider realities beyond conventional frameworks. What truths lie embedded in these metallic and mineral tubes? Could they represent knowledge, technology, or intelligence from a time before humanity emerged as the dominant force on the planet? Or are they simply the extraordinary result of natural processes we have yet to fully comprehend? As the desert winds sweep across the Qinghai Plateau, rust-colored dust drifting over the pyramidal mountain and its hundreds of hollow cylinders, the Baigong pipes remain steadfast, enigmatic, and elusive. They stand as a monument not to human history alone, but to the mysteries that predate it, to the forces, intelligences, or events that shaped our world long before we were here to record them. Their silence is profound, yet it speaks to the imagination, beckoning us to explore, to question, and to wonder what other ancient truths may remain hidden, waiting patiently for those bold enough to seek them. From the remote mountains of western China, where the Baigong pipes challenge our understanding of ancient technology, our journey now moves northward to the Siberian wilderness of Russia. Deep in the Irkutsk region, near the remote settlement of Bodaibo, lies a formation that has perplexed explorers and scientists since its discovery in the mid-20th century, the Patomskiy crater. Rising abruptly from the surrounding taiga, this structure is an imposing, almost unnatural cone of shattered limestone and soil, its sides radiating geometric regularity that makes it appear both artificial and monumental, as if sculpted rather than formed. The crater measures approximately 40 meters high and 160 meters in diameter at its base. Its sharply rising walls and layered interior distinguish it from surrounding geological formations, while a deep depression at its summit gives it a distinct pockmarked profile. Local indigenous communities have long known of its presence, weaving the crater into stories and legends, yet its true origin remained unexplained until the 1940s, when Russian geologist Vadim Kolpakov officially documented it. From the moment it entered scientific discourse, the Patomskiy crater presented more questions than answers. Mainstream explanations initially suggested that the crater was the result of a meteorite impact, given its conical shape and abrupt presence within an otherwise flat expanse of taiga. Yet closer inspection cast doubt on this hypothesis. Unlike typical impact craters, the Patomskiy structure lacks signs of meteoritic material at its base. No traces of nickel, iridium, or other common impact signatures have been detected. The internal layering, consisting of fragmented limestone and silicate rocks, appears unlike anything produced by explosive collisions, and the cone's symmetry defies simple erosional explanations. Could it be that the forces shaping the Patomskiy crater were something other than a cosmic collision? Further investigation revealed additional anomalies. Radiocarbon dating of organic material around the crater suggested it could be several hundred to a few thousand years old, yet the precise age of the formation remains uncertain. Geophysical surveys detected unusual density patterns beneath the surface, indicating that the crater might not be hollow, but instead composed of compacted material in a highly regular arrangement. Its layered structure and the apparent radial orientation of some rock fragments evoke deliberate placement, prompting speculation that natural processes alone may not fully account for its formation. Alternative hypotheses have arisen to account for the crater's peculiarities. Some researchers have suggested that a massive underground gas explosion could have created the cone, with methane trapped in the limestone layers igniting and forcing rocks outward. Others propose a rare volcanic or geothermal event, though no evidence of past volcanic activity exists in the immediate region. Even more speculative ideas have emerged. Could the crater have been the site of an ancient technological event, a remnant of an energy discharge, or the surface expression of a subsurface structure lost to prehistory? While these theories remain conjectural, The crater's unusual geometry invites questions that go far beyond conventional geology. Local accounts add further intrigue. Residents of the surrounding forests report unusual phenomena near the crater: strange sounds, sudden gusts of wind, and the occasional fleeting glow at twilight. While such accounts could be attributed to folklore or environmental conditions, their consistency across decades cannot be entirely dismissed. Could these anecdotal observations hint at residual energy, subterranean processes, or other phenomena associated with the crater? And if so, what does that imply about the forces capable of creating such a structure in the first place? The Patomskiy crater also resonates with other anomalies we have explored, like the Baigong pipes. It suggests the possibility of a formation or structure whose origin may predate human habitation in the region. Like the Betz sphere, it exhibits qualities that challenge conventional understanding of natural forces and patterns. And like the Richat structure, it presents a symmetry and regularity so striking that the mind is compelled to wonder whether intelligence, natural or otherwise, played a role in its creation. Each of these mysteries reminds us that the Earth contains landscapes shaped not only by the slow passage of time, but potentially by forces, events, or intelligences that remain largely unknown to us. Scientists continue to study the crater with modern tools: high-resolution topography, ground-penetrating radar, and geochemical analysis. Yet, for all the technology applied, no definitive explanation has emerged. Each layer of rock, each radial fracture, and each subtle indentation prompts new questions. Could this formation represent a rare natural anomaly, shaped by processes yet to be fully understood? Or is it a sign of something older, a geological or energetic event that predates recorded human history? The very act of studying it raises philosophical and scientific questions about the boundaries of knowledge and the hidden depth of the Earth's story. As we consider the Patomskiy crater, we are reminded of the intersection between observation and imagination. What we perceive in its geometric regularity, artificiality, order, or intelligence may be an invitation for human consciousness to interpret natural phenomena in familiar ways. Yet the mystery remains. Why here, in the heart of Siberia, surrounded by dense forest and inaccessible terrain, does such a structure exist? What forces, ancient or extraordinary, could have deposited and arranged these layers of rock in a precise, conical form? And perhaps most provocatively, what traces of a pre-human world might the crater conceal beneath its surface, waiting for those willing to look beyond the obvious? Ultimately, the Patomskiy crater endures as a symbol of the enigmatic nature of our planet. It challenges the conventional narrative of Earth's history, suggesting that extraordinary events, geological, energetic, or otherwise, have occurred in places far removed from human observation. Its existence invites reflection on the possibility that our planet's story is far deeper and stranger than commonly understood, that anomalies persist, silently recording events, processes, or forces that shaped the landscape long before humanity emerged. As sunlight filters through the Siberian forest canopy, illuminating the rust-colored slopes of the crater, the Patomskiy structure remains silent yet evocative. Its layered cone, abrupt rise, and subtle mysteries speak to the patient observer, urging inquiry and wonder. Does it hide the imprint of forces lost to time? Does it point to natural processes so rare that they are scarcely recognized by science? Or might it be evidence of a deeper, older intelligence at work? A reminder that the Earth contains secrets far beyond our current comprehension? The questions linger unresolved, inviting us to imagine, investigate, and explore the hidden dimensions of our world, where the ancient and the mysterious intersect. From the frozen, remote expanses of Siberia and the enigmatic Patomskiy crater, our exploration of Earth's ancient and inexplicable phenomena now turns to a much smaller but equally puzzling stage: the pastoral landscapes of Devon, England. In the bitter winter of 1855, snow blanketed the rolling hills, narrow lanes, and thatched cottages of this rural county, and upon this serene, white canvas, a mystery appeared, one that would baffle local residents, scientists, and folklorists alike: the Devil's Footprints. On the morning of February 9th, 1855, farmers and townsfolk awoke to discover a trail of footprints stretching for miles across rooftops, fields, and frozen rivers. The tracks were unusually narrow and remarkably straight, often appearing in single file, as though a solitary entity had traversed the landscape with deliberate purpose. Curiously, they seemed to defy the obstacles of geography. They crossed over walls, ditches, and even streams, leaving no signs of disturbance other than the impressions themselves. Local newspapers quickly reported the phenomenon, capturing the attention of neighboring villages and igniting public imagination. What struck witnesses most was the uniformity and strangeness of the prints. Each mark was hoof-like in appearance, yet elongated, with some describing them as cloven or possessing a pointed shape that suggested neither human nor known animal origin. Some prints measured less than 4 inches in length, while others varied slightly, hinting at an inexplicable consistency across distances of over 100 miles. They appeared overnight, spanning miles of Devonshire countryside, and then vanished just as mysteriously, leaving no clear evidence of the entity that had made them. Mainstream investigations at the time offered plausible but imperfect explanations. Some suggested that the prints were the result of hopping animals, such as kangaroos or wallabies, escaped from private menageries. Others proposed that unusual weather conditions, wind patterns, and drifting snow had distorted ordinary animal tracks into the bizarre shapes reported. While these explanations addressed some anomalies, they could not fully account for the continuity, breadth, or sometimes impossibly straight trajectory of the footprints, nor their crossing over roofs and rivers without apparent assistance. Eyewitness testimony adds further intrigue. Residents described the tracks appearing across rooftops, passing through narrow alleyways, and continuing uninterrupted across frozen streams. Some claimed that the prints were aligned in a single file with remarkable precision, suggesting an intelligence, or at least a purpose, that defies ordinary animal behavior. Contemporary reports also documented a sense of unease among villagers, a pervasive feeling that something otherworldly had intruded upon the familiar landscape. The term "Devil's Footprints" emerged not merely from superstition, but from the collective recognition that no known creature could account for the evidence. Fringe theories have since flourished. Some speculate that the phenomenon was a form of mass hallucination, an extraordinary instance of psychological projection fueled by fear and winter isolation. Others argue for more literal interpretations, that an unknown species, perhaps extinct or unclassified, moved through the area with agility and precision beyond human expectation. A few even propose the possibility of supernatural intervention, invoking folklore of spirits, demons, or entities capable of crossing physical barriers as effortlessly as the wind. While these explanations may challenge conventional understanding, they underscore the persistent mystery of the event. Modern analysis adds layers of complexity. Historians and cryptozoologists examining archival reports note that the footprints maintained a remarkably consistent depth, suggesting weight distribution unlike that of any known animal. In addition, the abrupt beginning and end of the trail, appearing suddenly and disappearing without trace, mirrors patterns observed in other historical anomalies, such as the Hessdalen lights in Norway or the Betz mystery sphere in Florida. In each case, evidence appears transient, tangible, yet ephemeral, leaving observers to reconstruct events from fragmentary impressions rather than complete narratives. The Devil's Footprints also invite reflection on the interaction between human perception and environmental conditions. Snow acts as both a preserver and a distorter, capturing delicate impressions while simultaneously altering their appearance through melting, drifting, and compression. Could this combination have created tracks that appeared impossible or unnatural? Or does the phenomenon point to a deeper truth, one in which natural and perhaps extraordinary forces intersected in a single, fleeting moment, leaving a trail that continues to puzzle observers more than a century and a half later? The cultural impact of the footprints is equally striking. Local folklore, newspapers, and journals immortalize the event, blending observation with narrative, speculation with social imagination. Residents attributed meaning to the tracks, interpreting them as omens, divine messages, or the manifestation of forces beyond human comprehension. In this sense, the Devil's Footprints are not merely a physical mystery. They are also a reflection of humanity's attempt to understand and contextualize the inexplicable within familiar frameworks of belief, fear, and wonder. Scientific inquiry has since sought patterns within the chaos. Researchers have compared the 1855 phenomenon to similar events elsewhere. Snow tracks of unknown origin observed in remote locations, transient animal footprints that defy classification, and tracks aligned in unusual geometric patterns. Each comparison emphasizes both the rarity and the strangeness of the Devil's Footprints, suggesting that the event was not a simple anomaly, but part of a broader pattern of natural or unexplained phenomena that challenge conventional explanation. Ultimately, the Devil's Footprints of Devon endure as a testament to the persistence of mystery in our world. They remind us that even in familiar landscapes, fields, villages, and frozen rivers, events can occur that challenge perception, defy conventional explanation, and invite both scientific and imaginative inquiry. Like the Baigong pipes in China or the Patomskiy crater in Siberia, these footprints demonstrate that the Earth itself can serve as a canvas for anomalies that stretch the limits of knowledge and compel observers to wonder at what lies just beyond comprehension. As we walk the snow-blanketed hills of Devon in imagination, following the ghostly trail of the footprints, the mystery persists. What entity traversed the landscape with such precision and secrecy? Was it a known animal behaving in extraordinary ways, a lost species, or something altogether beyond natural explanation? And perhaps most profoundly, what does the event suggest about the boundaries of observation and understanding, about the hidden forces that intersect with the human experience, and about the lingering presence of the inexplicable in a world we assume we know? The Devil's Footprints of 1855 remain silent on these questions, yet they speak powerfully to those willing to ponder them. Their ephemeral trail, crossing walls, streams, and fields without pause, is both an invitation and a challenge. To witness, to investigate, and to consider that, even in the most familiar environments, mysteries older and stranger than our expectations await discovery. And so the snow melts, the land returns to normal, yet the footprints endure in memory and imagination, a reminder that some phenomena resist explanation, leaving only wonder, curiosity, and the invitation to look more closely at the world around us. From the snow-blanketed hills of Devon and the ghostly trail of the Devil's Footprints, our journey now shifts far south to the rugged, cloud-shrouded mountains of Ecuador. Here, in the heart of the Llanganatis range, lies a landscape of steep ridges, dense forests, and hidden valleys, a place so treacherous and impenetrable that even experienced explorers have described it as a labyrinth of stone, mist, and shadow. It is in these remote heights that one of the most enduring and mysterious treasures in history is said to lie, documented not by discovery, but by manuscript, the Llanganatis treasure. The story begins with the Spanish conquest of the Inca Empire in the 16th century. Among the most infamous episodes is the death of Atahualpa, the last sovereign emperor of the Incas, who was executed by the Spanish despite paying a ransom of unprecedented scale, gold, silver, and precious artifacts that filled entire rooms. Chroniclers reported that, before his death, Atahualpa's treasure disappeared into the mountainous wilds of Llanganatis, hidden by Inca priests or local inhabitants to prevent it from falling into foreign hands. Over the centuries, countless explorers and treasure hunters have ventured into the mist-laden valleys, driven by tales preserved in manuscripts and oral histories, yet none have confirmed its location. What makes the Llanganatis treasure manuscript particularly compelling is its dual nature. It is both a record and a mystery. Early Spanish accounts describe the treasure in meticulous detail. Quantities of gold, ornate vessels, religious artifacts, and ceremonial objects. But the manuscripts also hint at cryptic clues, oblique directions, and coded references to natural landmarks. Some passages reference rivers, rock formations, or valleys that breathe, language that may hold symbolic or esoteric meaning. Historians debate whether these were practical directions for locating the treasure, metaphorical markers meant to obscure its location, or deliberate tests of intelligence and faith. The terrain itself compounds the mystery. The Llanganatis range is notorious for sudden storms, treacherous cliffs, and thick cloud cover that obscures sight lines. Rivers cascade unpredictably, and dense vegetation conceals hidden ravines. Even with modern mapping technology, navigation is challenging, and the risk of becoming lost is ever present. The manuscript's descriptions of hidden paths and landmarks have frustrated generations of explorers, who report that features described in the text often seem to vanish, shift, or appear differently depending on the weather or time of year. Could this be the deliberate work of those who hid the treasure, a strategy to safeguard it from pursuers? Or does the manuscript encode knowledge of a landscape that has itself changed over centuries, leaving clues tantalizingly out of reach? Speculative theories about the treasure and its manuscript abound. Some propose that the treasure was not only physical, but also symbolic, representing spiritual or ritual knowledge encoded in objects rather than purely material wealth. Others suggest that the Inca had access to technologies or methods for transporting and concealing large amounts of gold in ways that modern observers cannot easily trace. Fringe interpretations even hint at the manuscript recording a location where gold was hidden in conjunction with sacred geometries or sites of astronomical significance. While there is no conclusive evidence for such claims, the very existence of the manuscript ensures that the legend continues to inspire imagination and inquiry alike. The story of the Llanganatis treasure manuscript also intersects with broader historical mysteries. It illustrates how written records, even when ostensibly factual, can become vessels of ambiguity, preserving both information and enigma. The text simultaneously guides and misleads, chronicling what existed while intentionally, or unintentionally, concealing the methods needed to retrieve it. In this sense, it mirrors other historical anomalies we have explored: ephemeral evidence, tantalizing fragments, and human encounters with forces or artifacts beyond full comprehension. Just as the Patomskiy crater, Baigong pipes, or devil's footprints resist definitive explanation, the manuscript itself remains a bridge between known history and the uncharted possibilities of the past. One of the most intriguing aspects of the manuscript is its insistence on obscurity. Even carefully documented accounts of the treasure frequently contradict one another, with quantities, locations, and landmarks varying from one copy to the next. This has led some researchers to suggest that multiple manuscripts may have circulated, intentionally altered to mislead outsiders or preserve the secret within a trusted circle. Could these variations indicate a sophisticated system of encoding and protection, or merely the limitations of translation and human memory over centuries? The uncertainty reinforces the sense that the Llanganatis treasure is as much a puzzle of interpretation as it is a question of geography. The interplay between human determination and natural challenge is central to the manuscript's enduring allure. Over the centuries, explorers have risked life and limb to follow its clues, braving sudden storms, leeches, and venomous creatures, navigating paths that vanish into mist or collapse underfoot. Each attempt illuminates the manuscript's genius. It guides the seeker without granting certainty, revealing patterns and hints that can be understood only through careful observation, persistence, and perhaps an element of intuition. In this way, the treasure's story is inseparable from the environment itself, embedding knowledge of the landscape within the manuscript in a manner that ensures only the truly perceptive, or fortunate, might succeed. The Llanganatis treasure manuscript also encourages reflection on the concept of value and the passage of time. The gold it describes was intended to pay a ransom, yet the real treasure may be far more elusive: the understanding of a vanished culture, the methods of concealment, and the lessons encoded in landscape, language, and story. Like the other anomalies we have explored, ancient structures, artifacts, and unexplained phenomena, it challenges us to consider what survives across centuries, what is lost, and what may yet lie hidden, waiting for a careful observer to uncover it. Ultimately, the manuscript remains an open invitation to inquiry and imagination. It reminds us that history is not solely a record of events, but a landscape of possibilities, a tapestry woven from observation, interpretation, and human endeavor. The Llanganatis treasure, though never conclusively found, continues to provoke questions about the intersections of geography, culture, and the human desire to uncover what is hidden. Was the treasure purely material, or does it represent knowledge, ingenuity, or ritual significance beyond the physical? Did the Inca leave behind a legacy of secrets encoded in text and terrain, waiting for those capable of decoding them? As the clouds gather over the Llanganatis range, veiling valleys, cliffs, and rivers in mist, the manuscript persists as a whisper from the past, urging inquiry and reflection. It tells of wealth and power, of ingenuity and mystery, but never delivers certainty. And in that deliberate ambiguity, it captures something profound: the enduring human fascination with the unknown, the thrill of pursuit, and the reminder that some mysteries endure precisely because they remain just out of reach. In the folds of the mountains, in the rivers and ravines, and in the words of the manuscript itself, the Llanganatis treasure continues to evoke awe, wonder, and the unending invitation to imagine what might still lie hidden beyond sight and time. From the mist-shrouded peaks of Ecuador and the cryptic Llanganatis treasure, our journey now moves across oceans to the tropical islands of Indonesia, where the dense jungles and hidden river valleys of central Java conceal a discovery that has intrigued linguists, archaeologists, and cryptographers alike: the Codex-Like Surakarta glyph tablet. Unearthed in the early 20th century near the city of Surakarta, this artifact is unlike any known writing or record, presenting a puzzle that bridges human history and something older, something perhaps entirely uncharted. The tablet, roughly the size of a modern notebook, is composed of a polished stone whose surface reflects light in an almost metallic shimmer. Its edges are precise, and its form suggests deliberate crafting rather than random erosion. Yet it is the inscriptions that captivate and confound. Covering both sides of the tablet are glyphs, lines, spirals, and symbols that bear no resemblance to Javanese, Sanskrit, or any known script of the region. They appear organized, flowing across the surface in continuous sequences, as if recording narrative, knowledge, or instruction. but their meaning remains tantalizingly out of reach. What is immediately striking about the Surakarta glyph tablet is its Codex-like quality. Unlike a single carved message or a decorative motif, the inscriptions suggest a system of thought, a structured sequential language with apparent grammar, spacing, and repetition. Some symbols recur in patterns reminiscent of headings or thematic markers, while others appear as complex clusters, perhaps representing concepts or objects. Researchers who have studied the tablet note the meticulous precision of the carvings, which implies both purpose and a level of skill uncommon for artifacts in the region dated to comparable periods. Could these glyphs be the product of a civilization older than humanity as we understand it, or a lost culture whose knowledge was preserved only in such enigmatic forms? The circumstances of the tablet's discovery add to its mystery. It was found deep within an eroded cave system on the slopes of the Minore Hills, far from any known settlements of the era. Layers of sediment suggested the tablet had been buried for centuries, perhaps millennia. Yet radiocarbon dating of nearby organic material yielded inconclusive results, placing it in a time frame that overlaps with early human activity in the region, but offering no definitive attribution. Could the tablet have been transported from elsewhere, intentionally hidden, or created by a culture unknown to recorded history? Each possibility raises profound questions about the origins of written knowledge and the scope of civilizations long lost to time. Linguists and cryptographers have attempted to decode the tablet with limited success. Statistical analyses reveal recurring sequences and patterns, hinting at syntax or a structural logic. Yet no known alphabet, syllabary, or pictographic system matches the glyphs. Some scholars suggest it could be a protoscript, a precursor to writing systems that later emerged in Southeast Asia, while others propose it may encode abstract concepts, astronomical data, or even knowledge of natural cycles in a way that is entirely unfamiliar to modern researchers. The mystery persists. Is this an early human creation, a relic of an unknown civilization, or something older? A record from a source that challenges conventional chronologies? Fringe theories extend the intrigue further. Some posit that the glyphs may represent an alien or non-human intelligence, their form and precision hinting at knowledge or communication beyond terrestrial origins. Others suggest the tablet could contain advanced information about mathematics, astronomy, or metallurgy encoded in symbolic form, preserved through centuries as a message to those capable of understanding it. While these ideas remain speculative, they underscore the profound allure of the artifact. It challenges the boundaries of language, history, and human capability. The Surakarta tablet also resonates with other enigmatic artifacts we have explored in this series. Like the Llanganatis treasure manuscript, it encodes information in a form resistant to casual interpretation, demanding careful observation and intellectual patience. Like the Betz sphere or Baigong pipes, it bridges the tangible and the mysterious, offering physical evidence that something extraordinary, technological, cultural, or cognitive, existed in ways our conventional histories do not fully capture. In each case, the artifact acts as a doorway, a fragment of a larger story waiting to be reconstructed through observation, deduction, and imagination. The physical environment surrounding the discovery site reinforces the sense of isolation and mystery. Dense rainforest, steep ridges, and hidden caves shielded the tablet from casual discovery, suggesting that those who created or deposited it may have intended it to remain concealed. The location also raises practical questions. How could a society, using tools and techniques known at the time, produce such precise and durable inscriptions in such a remote, challenging environment? Was the tablet intended for use by the local population, or was it a preserved message for a future discoverer, placed deliberately in a protective natural vault? The Codex-Like Surakarta glyph tablet also prompts reflection on the nature of preservation and loss. Stone endures where papyrus, wood, or other materials decay. It records what other mediums cannot. Could this tablet be a fragment of a vast archive of knowledge that has otherwise vanished? Does it hint at traditions, sciences, or cosmologies that predate human civilization as we know it? And if so, what other artifacts, lost manuscripts, or coded objects remain hidden in caves, mountains, and jungles around the world, awaiting rediscovery? Ultimately, the Surakarta glyph tablet is not merely an artifact. It is an invitation. Its precise yet indecipherable markings challenge observers to reconsider assumptions about history, cognition, and the transmission of knowledge. It reminds us that the story of human, and perhaps pre-human, existence is not contained solely in texts, monuments, or artifacts we readily recognize, but also in enigmatic objects that resist understanding, forcing us to confront the limits of perception, language, and historical record. As the humid air drifts through the Menorah Hills and sunlight filters through the dense canopy, the tablet rests silently, its surface etched with symbols that have endured centuries, yet whose meaning remains concealed. Each line, spiral, and cluster of glyphs embodies a mystery that bridges time, culture, and perhaps even species, urging reflection on the depths of history and the hidden knowledge that may lie buried beneath landscapes both familiar and remote. Could this tablet be a relic of a civilization older than humanity, a message from a time before our recorded history, or an isolated record of a culture lost to the tides of time? The questions linger, unanswered, drawing the observer into a contemplative space where mystery and evidence converge, and the imagination is free to wonder what secrets the Surakarta glyph tablet might still hold. From the dense jungles of central Java and the enigmatic Surakarta glyph tablet, our journey now crosses continents once again, arriving in the rolling prairies and grasslands of the Pacific Northwest in the United States. Here, in the lowlands of Washington State, lie formations so uniform and enigmatic that they have captivated scientists, historians, and curious observers for over a century: the Mima Mounds. Scattered across thousands of acres, these rounded, grassy mounds emerge seemingly at random from the landscape, each one remarkably similar in size and shape, yet separated by natural distances, creating a pattern that is at once regular and inexplicably complex. The Mima Mounds are typically circular or oval, ranging from 1 to 3 meters in height and 10 to 50 meters in diameter. From a distance, the prairie seems like any other, yet as the eye adjusts, the mounds become apparent, a subtle undulation, a rhythm of the land. Early settlers and surveyors noted their unusual uniformity, and for decades the mounds have been the subject of speculation, scientific study, and even folklore. They are found not only in Washington, but across western North America and parts of Mexico, though the concentration in the Mima Prairie is unmatched, giving the phenomenon its name. What makes the Mima Mounds particularly compelling is their apparent regularity paired with an origin that remains elusive. Various theories have emerged over the years, attempting to explain the formation of these strange landforms. Mainstream scientific explanations suggest that seismic activity, periglacial processes, or freeze-thaw cycles during the last ice age may have shaped the mounds. Others propose that wind and water erosion, combined with soil dynamics, could gradually produce the rounded shapes observed. Yet even the most thorough geological models struggle to account for the sheer number, consistent dimensions, and distribution patterns of the mounds. How could natural processes create such harmony across a landscape spanning miles? Observations of the Mima Mounds have sparked further curiosity due to their ecological peculiarities. The soil within the mounds often differs subtly from that in the depressions between them, exhibiting higher levels of drainage and slightly elevated temperatures. This has led some researchers to speculate that subterranean activity or biological influences, such as the collective behavior of burrowing animals, may play a role in shaping and maintaining the formations. Yet no single animal species known to inhabit the region demonstrates the ability to construct mounds of this scale with such uniformity, leaving the phenomenon as enigmatic as ever. The history of human interaction with the Mima mounds adds layers to the mystery. Indigenous peoples of the Pacific Northwest were aware of these formations long before European settlement, and some oral traditions describe the mounds as sacred or imbued with spiritual significance. Early 20th century researchers recorded accounts suggesting that certain mounds were places of ritual or community gathering, hinting at a cultural importance that may extend far beyond their physical characteristics. Could these formations have been recognized and perhaps even subtly modified by humans, adding a layer of intention to processes that may also be natural? Or is the seeming symmetry and scale entirely the work of forces beyond our current understanding? Speculative theories have also emerged to explain the Mima mounds. Some suggest that the mounds are the remnants of ancient human constructions, perhaps markers of prehistoric activity or ritual landscapes predating known civilizations in the region. Others propose that seismic energy or unknown geological phenomena created the mounds in ways that defy contemporary modeling. Fringe interpretations even entertain the idea that the mounds could be evidence of extraterrestrial or pre-human intervention, arguing that the precision and number of the formations hint at purposeful design. While these ideas remain unproven, they illustrate the profound fascination that the Mima mounds inspire, inviting inquiry that spans science, history, and imagination. The Mima mounds also resonate with other enigmatic artifacts and formations we have explored. Like the Codex-Like Surakarta glyph tablet, they challenge assumptions about the capabilities and knowledge of ancient peoples. Like the Patomskiy crater or Baigong pipes, they reveal natural or possibly guided processes that leave observers questioning the limits of known phenomena. Each anomaly, from mound to manuscript, reminds us that Earth contains evidence of forces and events that may predate recorded human history, compelling us to consider that the world is far more complex and layered than it appears at first glance. Field studies of the Mima Prairie provide further intrigue. Researchers measuring mound spacing and orientation note subtle patterns that suggest more than random formation. Some mounds appear aligned along gentle ridge lines or drainage paths, while others cluster in quasi-geometric arrangements, hinting at either environmental optimization or some hidden organizing principle. Could this be evidence of a subtle interaction between geophysical processes and ecological adaptation? Or does it point to forces beyond conventional explanation? The patterns are there, inviting closer inspection, yet resisting definitive categorization. The mystery of the Mima mounds extends beyond their origin to their endurance. Unlike ephemeral footprints or manuscripts, these mounds have persisted for thousands of years, surviving erosion, flooding, and human activity. Their longevity preserves a record of the past that is both tangible and elusive, offering insight into the interplay of soil, water, climate, and possibly even unknown influences. In contemplating the mounds, one cannot help but wonder about the forces that shaped them, the events they have silently witnessed, and the stories they might tell if we could interpret their subtle language. Ultimately, the Mima mounds stand as a reminder of the Earth's enduring capacity to surprise and challenge us. They are simultaneously simple and complex, ordinary and extraordinary, a natural puzzle whose solution remains tantalizingly out of reach. They provoke reflection on the limits of human understanding, the hidden patterns of the natural world, and the possibility that our planet preserves evidence of events, processes, and knowledge older than humanity itself. As sunlight casts long shadows across the undulating prairie, the Mima mounds reveal their quiet rhythm, an arrangement at once precise and inexplicable, whispering of forces both natural and mysterious. Are they the product of ice, soil, and wind alone, or do they contain traces of intelligence, ritual, or processes now lost to memory? What secrets lie beneath their grassy surfaces, and how might they reshape our understanding of the landscapes we take for granted? The questions remain unanswered, yet their persistence ensures that the Mima Mounds will continue to draw observers, inviting contemplation, exploration, and wonder at a phenomenon older and stranger than we can fully grasp. From the rolling grasslands of the Mima Prairie, with their enigmatic mounds shaped by forces yet not fully understood, our exploration of ancient and inexplicable evidence now takes us to the rugged valleys of northern Italy. Nestled among the steep slopes of the Alps lies Val Camonica, a landscape carved by glaciers and rivers, whose rocky cliffs and riverbeds conceal one of the most extraordinary archaeological enigmas in the world: the Val Camonica Petroglyphs. Among these carvings, scattered over an area spanning nearly 180 kilometers, certain figures stand out for their striking resemblance to modern imagery of astronauts, spacesuits, and aerial vehicles, a phenomenon that has captured the attention of scholars, historians, and enthusiasts alike. The petroglyphs of Val Camonica were first documented in the late 19th century, though local populations had long been aware of their presence. Carved into the rock surfaces using stone tools, the images date back to a broad span of time, from around 8000 BC to the 1st centuries AD, making them among the oldest known extensive collections of rock art in Europe. They depict a wide array of human and animal forms, geometric symbols, and abstract patterns. Yet it is the subset of carvings that appear to depict figures encased in suits, with rounded helmets, and even devices resembling jets or spacecraft, that has sparked the most enduring curiosity and debate. These so-called astronaut petroglyphs often show figures standing upright, with round head coverings connected to lines that some interpret as hoses or control mechanisms. Some hold objects resembling tools, while others are depicted in postures that suggest movement or interaction with devices. Mainstream archaeologists interpret these images within the context of ritual, religious, or symbolic representation. They may depict shamans in ceremonial attire, masks, or costumes used during spiritual practices, abstracted in ways that to modern eyes evoke technological forms. Yet the resemblance to contemporary notions of space exploration is striking, prompting questions about human imagination, perception, and the possibility of knowledge or inspiration lost to time. The carvings themselves are meticulous, etched deeply into volcanic rock to ensure durability over millennia. Despite centuries of exposure to wind, rain, and seasonal changes, many figures retain clarity, allowing modern observers to examine their details with remarkable precision. The repetition of certain motifs suggests intentionality. The helmeted figures appear in multiple sites across the valley, sometimes in pairs or in sequences that hint at narrative or function. Could these images encode stories, events, or concepts that are entirely unknown to us? Or do they reflect a universal human fascination with the unknown and the unseen, rendered in a visual language long before writing systems emerged? The interpretation of the Val Camonica astronaut petroglyphs has inspired both conventional and speculative theories. Scholars in archaeology emphasize that the carvings fit within broader prehistoric traditions of symbolic representation, often associated with fertility, hunting, or spiritual rites. They caution against reading modern concepts into ancient imagery, noting that pareidolia, the human tendency to perceive familiar patterns, can lead to misinterpretation. Yet the precision and consistency of certain figures, especially those resembling helmets or equipment, challenges casual dismissal. The question lingers: could these carvings represent observational knowledge, visions, or concepts that transcend the limitations of contemporary understanding? Fringe interpretations push the boundaries of imagination even further. Some suggest that the figures could depict ancient encounters with beings or visitors from beyond our world, leaving traces of their presence in ritualized art. Others propose that these carvings encode advanced technological knowledge, preserved symbolically across generations. While evidence for these theories remains circumstantial, they highlight the profound impact of these images on the human psyche. They provoke wonder, speculation, and a reconsideration of what might have been possible in prehistory. The geographical and environmental context of Val Camonica adds to the sense of mystery. The valley is steep, rugged, and densely forested in places, with rock faces that rise abruptly from the riverbanks. This landscape would have presented challenges to prehistoric inhabitants, yet they invested considerable effort in climbing, carving, and preserving their messages on these stones. Could the selection of locations, often prominent cliffs visible from below or along paths, suggest intentionality not merely for survival or utility, but for communication, ritual, or observation? And if so, what inspired these early artists to produce figures that today echo images of modern technological achievement? The cultural continuity of Val Camonica is also striking. Archaeologists have identified layers of occupation and activity over thousands of years, indicating that these sites held enduring significance for multiple generations. The persistence of certain motifs, including the astronaut-like figures, underscores their importance within local cosmologies and belief systems. Even if the modern resemblance to space travelers is coincidental, it reflects a remarkable capacity for symbolic abstraction, imagination, and technical skill in prehistoric communities, an enduring human fascination with the unknown that transcends millennia. In contemplating the Val Camonica petroglyphs, we encounter questions that resonate with other anomalies explored in this series. Like the Mima Mounds, they challenge our understanding of human interaction with the environment, showing evidence of deliberate patterning across time and space. Like the Surakarta glyph tablet, they suggest the transmission of knowledge through symbolic systems that remain indecipherable in full today. And, as with other enigmatic sites, they provoke reflection on the boundaries between observation, interpretation, and imagination, reminding us that ancient human experience was complex, rich, and not always fully accessible to modern perspectives. Ultimately, the astronaut-like figures of Val Camonica endure as a bridge between past and present. They are at once familiar and alien, ancient and startlingly modern, inviting contemplation of what humans saw, imagined, or experienced thousands of years ago. Do they reflect spiritual journeys, ceremonial attire, or visionary experiences? Might they encode knowledge of phenomena that prehistoric observers witnessed, but that we cannot yet interpret? Or do they simply testify to the universality of human curiosity, projecting forms of wonder and exploration onto the stone canvases of the Alps? As sunlight filters across the rocky cliffs, illuminating carvings worn smooth by time, the figures remain silent witnesses to millennia of human life, thought, and imagination. Their lines and curves, etched into stone, connect us to a past that is tangible yet elusive, precise yet enigmatic. In the shadow of the Alps, the Val Camonica petroglyphs invite us to pause, to consider the depths of human creativity and perception, and to wonder what mysteries these ancient artists saw, recorded, or imagined that we have yet to fully comprehend. The images endure, timeless, asking only that we look, reflect, and allow ourselves to be captivated by the echoes of thought and vision older than ourselves. From the alpine cliffs of Val Camonica and their cryptic petroglyphs, our journey now spans the globe to the high altiplano of Bolivia, where the arid plains meet the distant glacial peaks of the Andes. Here, near the shores of Lake Titicaca, lies an artifact that has stirred debate, wonder, and controversy for decades: the Fuente Magna Bowl. Discovered in the early 20th century near the village of Chua in the La Paz region, this ceremonial vessel is no ordinary relic. Its physical form is striking, a finely crafted stone bowl, small enough to hold in a single hand, yet dense with implications that reach far beyond its modest dimensions. The bowl itself is carved from a dark, igneous stone, polished to a smooth surface that reflects light with subtle iridescence. Its shape is simple but elegant, a shallow basin supported by a sturdy base with gently flared sides and a weight that suggests careful workmanship. But it is the inscriptions along its exterior that transform the Fuente Magna bowl from a regional curiosity into a global enigma. These markings, etched with painstaking precision, resemble cuneiform or proto-writing systems, yet they appear hundreds of kilometers and millennia away from the ancient Mesopotamian civilizations where such scripts are typically found. Could this artifact suggest a previously unrecognized connection between disparate cultures, or does it represent something else entirely? The inscriptions are intricate and deliberate, covering the bowl's rim and extending partway down its sides. Some scholars argue that they bear a striking resemblance to Sumerian cuneiform, a writing system thought to have emerged around 3000 BC in the fertile valleys of Mesopotamia. Others note similarities to Proto-Sumerian or Proto-Elamite characters, suggesting a complexity and sophistication that is astonishing given the bowl's Andean context. Mainstream archaeologists caution that apparent resemblances can be coincidental, emphasizing that independent invention of writing systems is a documented phenomenon in human history. Yet the precision of the markings and the unexpected parallels with Old World scripts make the Fuente Magna bowl exceptionally provocative. The circumstances of the bowl's discovery add layers to its mystery. Found in what appeared to be a pre-Columbian settlement near the shore of Lake Titicaca, the vessel was accompanied by ceramic shards, obsidian tools, and other artifacts consistent with local Andean cultures. Yet none of these surrounding items bear inscriptions resembling the bowl's cuneiform-like symbols. This disjunction raises difficult questions. Was the bowl a singular object, imported or influenced by an unknown visitor? Or does it reflect a lost tradition of symbolic communication in the Andes that has otherwise disappeared from the archaeological record? The ambiguity has fueled both serious research and spirited speculation. Interpretations of the inscriptions themselves vary widely. Some researchers suggest that they are purely decorative, stylized patterns meant to convey status, ritual significance, or aesthetic appeal. Others argue that they may encode information, ritual instructions, lineage records, or cosmological knowledge, using a symbolic system lost to time. The precision of the carving, the deliberate repetition of certain signs, and the alignment of symbols along natural reference points on the bowl all suggest an intentionality that goes beyond ornamentation. Could these markings reflect knowledge transferred across continents, or a convergence of human creativity that produced remarkably similar systems independently? Fringe theories have also emerged around the Fuente Magna bowl. Some propose that it represents evidence of pre-Columbian transoceanic contact between Mesopotamia and the Andes, challenging conventional narratives of isolation in the ancient Americas. Others speculate that the inscriptions may encode advanced astronomical, mathematical, or spiritual knowledge, preserved through a symbolic language unknown to modern scholars. While these interpretations remain controversial and lack definitive proof, they underscore the compelling nature of the artifact. It is both tangible and elusive, providing concrete evidence yet resisting definitive understanding. The Fuente Magna bowl also invites reflection on the broader context of ancient human ingenuity. Like the Codex-Like Surakarta glyph tablet or the Camonica Petroglyphs, it demonstrates that symbolic communication, abstract representation, and precise craftsmanship were possible in ways that we are only beginning to appreciate. The artifact challenges assumptions about the geographic and temporal boundaries of cultural knowledge, suggesting that early societies may have developed capacities that remain partially hidden in the archaeological record. It compels observers to reconsider the pathways by which human, or possibly pre-human, civilizations might have transmitted knowledge across vast distances and through time. The environmental context of the Altiplano reinforces the sense of wonder. The high plains are harsh. Thin air, intense sunlight, and unpredictable weather combine to make survival challenging. Yet these same conditions have preserved countless archaeological sites, including the Fuente Magna Bowl, which retains the clarity of its inscriptions despite centuries of exposure. Could the choice of location, a region already imbued with spiritual and ceremonial significance, have influenced the creation and preservation of the bowl? Was it a sacred object, intended to be buried, hidden, or transported as part of ritual practice? Or was it an artifact of knowledge, encoded for future discovery, awaiting a perceptive observer capable of deciphering its meaning? The controversy surrounding the bowl is amplified by its singularity. Few other artifacts in the Andes bear inscriptions remotely similar, and none match the precision or stylistic parallels to Old World cuneiform. Its existence raises questions not only about cultural transmission, but about the survival of evidence, the interpretation of symbols, and the capacity for human imagination and craftsmanship to transcend geography. Like other anomalies we have explored, from the Mima Mounds to the Surakarta Glyph tablet, the Fuente Magna Bowl challenges the limits of conventional explanation, demanding that we expand our notions of what is possible in ancient societies. Ultimately, the Fuente Magna Bowl is more than an artifact. It is a doorway into mystery. Its inscriptions, polished surface, and improbable parallels evoke questions about history, cognition, and the movement of knowledge across time and space. Was this bowl a product of Andean ingenuity alone? Or does it hint at connections with civilizations far removed in both distance and chronology? Could it preserve knowledge older than humanity as we currently understand it, a fragment of a larger story waiting to be uncovered? As sunlight glances across its polished rim and shadows accentuate the carved signs, the Fuente Magna Bowl rests quietly, its surface silent yet profoundly evocative. The questions it poses linger. What knowledge was encoded here? Who inscribed these symbols, and for what purpose? And most intriguingly, what other artifacts, hidden in the earth, await discovery to illuminate the deep and enigmatic past of human, or perhaps pre-human, civilization? The bowl endures as a testament to the persistence of mystery, a tangible link to the ancient world that invites both study and contemplation, reminding us that even a small object can expand the horizons of imagination and inquiry far beyond its modest form. From the high-altitude plains of Bolivia and the enigmatic Fuente Magna Bowl, our journey now shifts to the windswept North Sea, where the small German archipelago of Heligoland rises like a solitary sentinel from the waters. Here, amid rocky cliffs and salt-swept grasslands, archaeologists uncovered a remarkable artifact that continues to baffle scholars: the Heligoland bronze disc. This small, circular object, roughly 10 centimeters in diameter, bears a series of engraved symbols arranged in a precise, almost rhythmic pattern. Its discovery has sparked intense debate, not only for its craftsmanship, but for the inscrutable markings that cover its surface. The disc itself is composed of a bronze alloy, polished to a muted sheen that catches the light differently depending on the angle of observation. Its edges are smooth, meticulously finished, and the surface shows evidence of deliberate engraving techniques, suggesting a level of technical sophistication that has prompted questions about its creators. The most striking feature, however, is the series of concentric and radial lines etched across the disc. These markings, some straight, some curved, appear to form a symbolic language, or perhaps a map, a calendar, or a ritual diagram. Yet, despite careful study, no known European script or symbol system matches what is inscribed, leaving the artifact as an enigmatic witness to a lost chapter of human, or perhaps pre-human, history. The context of the Heligoland bronze disk's discovery adds to its mystery. It was unearthed during a series of excavations in the early 20th century, in layers of sediment and debris that suggest prolonged exposure to natural elements. Radiocarbon dating of nearby organic material places the disk in a time frame overlapping the Late Bronze Age, yet the symbols do not resemble any known Bronze Age writing system from Europe. Could it represent a local tradition that has otherwise vanished from the archaeological record? Or is it a relic of contact with cultures far beyond the familiar borders of ancient Europe, an artifact whose origin challenges accepted narratives of technological and symbolic development? What makes the disk particularly compelling is the precision and repetition of its engravings. Some lines intersect at angles that suggest geometric understanding, while others appear to form clusters reminiscent of symbolic grouping. Could these represent counting systems, astronomical observations, or ritual instructions encoded in a visual language? Mainstream interpretations often lean toward ritual or decorative purposes, noting that symbolic engraving is widespread in Bronze Age Europe. Yet the level of sophistication, combined with the apparent abstraction of the symbols, leaves open the possibility that the disk served a function entirely unfamiliar to us, a coded object, a mnemonic device, or even a repository of knowledge awaiting interpretation. The Heligoland bronze disk also bears comparison to other enigmatic artifacts we have explored. Like the Fuente Magna bowl, it challenges our assumptions about the geographic and cultural limits of symbolic literacy, suggesting that complex knowledge may have been transmitted across unexpected spaces and eras. Like the Surakarta glyph tablet or Val Camonica petroglyphs, it preserves information in a medium that resists immediate understanding, compelling observers to consider the interplay of intention, skill, and imagination in human, or possibly pre-human, activity. Each artifact serves as a reminder that evidence of advanced symbolic or technical capacities may survive in forms that our conventional frameworks struggle to decode. Scholarly debate over the disk's meaning has been intense. Some researchers argue that the symbols could represent abstract cosmological models, encoding knowledge of lunar cycles, solar movement, or seasonal changes crucial to agricultural societies. Others propose that the disk may have been used in ceremonial or divinatory contexts, a tangible focus for ritual activity in a society whose beliefs and practices have been lost to time. Fringe interpretations go further, suggesting that the disk could encode information from distant lands, perhaps reflecting contact with Mediterranean civilizations or even more exotic origins. While evidence for such theories is limited, the artifact's presence in Heligoland, far from known centers of Bronze Age literacy, provokes consideration of trade, migration, and knowledge exchange on a scale previously underestimated. The disk's physical characteristics also raise intriguing questions about its creation. The bronze is of high quality, and the uniformity of its circular form suggests the use of specialized tools or techniques that required significant skill. How did the makers achieve such precision? Was this the work of a small artisan class, a cultic specialist, or a community of knowledge bearers? And why was it placed where it was, in a landscape marked by isolation and exposure to the elements? The answers remain elusive, as the artifact's small size belies the magnitude of questions it inspires. Environmental and cultural context adds layers of complexity. Heligoland's isolation, a rocky outcrop in a harsh maritime environment, would have posed challenges for settlement and sustained habitation. Yet human activity in the area is well documented through the Bronze Age and beyond, suggesting that communities maintained a strong relationship with the sea, trade, and the rhythms of nature. Could the disk reflect an understanding of celestial navigation, tidal cycles, or other environmental factors crucial to survival in this landscape? Its existence hints at a synthesis of technical skill, symbolic literacy, and environmental awareness, capacities that echo the sophistication found in other ancient anomalies worldwide. Ultimately, the Heligoland bronze disk remains a silent enigma. It embodies a convergence of craftsmanship, symbolic abstraction, and unexplained origin. Like other artifacts in this exploration, from the Mima Mounds to the Fuente Magna bowl, it challenges our conventional understanding of history, suggesting that knowledge, skill, and perhaps even cross-cultural communication existed in ways that we have yet to fully appreciate. Its small form holds disproportionate significance, a reminder that even modest objects can carry the weight of unanswered questions. As sunlight glances across the bronze surface, revealing the intricate network of lines and curves, the disk rests quietly, an artifact of precision and mystery. Its inscriptions, while silent, provoke reflection on the ingenuity, imagination, and capability of those who created it. Was it a ritual object, a practical tool, or a symbolic repository of knowledge older and more complex than its era suggests? Could it be evidence of cultural connections, or knowledge lost to the passage of time, or even a fragment of understanding that predates human civilization as we conventionally define it? The Heligoland bronze disk endures as both evidence and enigma. It challenges observers to question what knowledge ancient peoples might have held, what skills they mastered, and how much of their ingenuity has been lost to time. In its polished metal and precise engravings, it offers a quiet but profound invitation to observe carefully, to think critically, and to allow the imagination to roam, acknowledging that the past holds mysteries still beyond our grasp. And as we consider this artifact, we are reminded that the landscape of human, and perhaps pre-human, history is far richer, stranger, and more complex than the fragments we have discovered so far. The disk remains, waiting for the day when its secrets might be illuminated, a silent witness to the capabilities of the past, and a challenge to our understanding of what was possible long before the modern world emerged. From the windswept cliffs of Heligoland and the enigmatic bronze disk that rests in the North Sea, our journey now moves into the rolling hills and verdant landscapes of Bosnia and Herzegovina. In the shadow of the towering peaks of the Dinaric Alps lies the small town of Visoko, unremarkable at first glance, yet beneath its soil may lie a network of subterranean passages that has captivated explorers, archaeologists, and curious minds for decades. The Bosnian Visoko tunnels. Known locally as the Ravne tunnels, these underground passages extend in seemingly endless corridors, carved through solid rock, and their origins remain fiercely debated. The tunnel's entrances are subtle, often concealed among low hills, stone outcrops, or vegetation, requiring careful observation to detect. Inside, the air is cool and damp, with an earthy scent that speaks to centuries of isolation from the surface world. The walls of the tunnels are lined with uniform blocks of stone, some smoothed and others showing subtle tooling marks, hinting at a construction effort both deliberate and sophisticated. Certain sections feature circular openings and chambers, suggesting that the network may have been designed with specific functional or ceremonial purposes in mind. Yet the question that haunts visitors and researchers alike is, who built these tunnels, and why? Initial investigations in the early 2000s drew attention when local amateur archaeologist Samir Osmanagic claimed the tunnels were part of a prehistoric network associated with a complex civilization predating known human history in the region. Radiocarbon dating of organic material from surrounding layers has produced ambiguous results, with some findings suggesting human activity several thousand years ago, while others indicate more recent modifications. Mainstream archaeologists remain skeptical, proposing that many of the tunnels are natural karst formations, common in Bosnia, altered by human hands over time. Yet the uniformity of certain walls, the alignment of passages, and the presence of megalithic-like blocks have fueled speculation that these tunnels may be far older than conventional explanations allow. The architecture within the tunnels is striking. Some corridors are precisely straight for tens of meters, intersecting at angles that imply careful planning. Certain chambers appear deliberately proportioned, with stone platforms, niches, and, in some areas, engraved symbols whose significance is not yet understood. Could these marks represent a symbolic or ritual language, perhaps encoding astronomical, spiritual, or practical knowledge for those who constructed them? Or are they the work of later visitors, attempting to make sense of, or even embellish, the subterranean spaces? The ambiguity is part of the tunnel's allure, leaving observers caught between geological explanation and the possibility of human ingenuity far beyond recognized prehistory. Visitors to the tunnels often describe a profound sense of atmosphere. The passageways stretch into darkness, the echo of footsteps magnifying the impression of immensity. Drips of water from stalactites punctuate the silence, while narrow shafts of light reveal carved stone and patterns etched by time. The subterranean environment amplifies both imagination and skepticism. Every straight corridor seems deliberate, yet natural processes in karstic limestone can produce linear tunnels, flat floors, and angular intersections. Could it be that nature and human modification work together, creating a space that blurs the line between natural formation and intentional construction? The Visoko tunnels are also notable for their association with surface features. Above ground lie mounds and hills, some resembling pyramidal shapes, which have led some researchers to propose that the underground network connects to an extensive prehistoric complex. If such a network exists, it could represent one of the largest known subterranean systems associated with ancient human or potentially pre-human activity. Yet rigorous peer-reviewed studies remain limited, and much of the evidence is anecdotal or circumstantial, leaving the tunnels suspended in a space between possibility and probability. And fringe theories surrounding the Visoko tunnels are as ambitious as they are provocative. Some suggest the tunnels were used for ritual purposes, energy generation, or even as protective refuges by civilizations whose knowledge has since vanished. Others speculate that they could be remnants of a forgotten global network of ancient structures, hinting at knowledge and technological capability far beyond what is conventionally attributed to early European societies. While these ideas remain unverified, they underscore the tunnel's capacity to inspire reflection on the limits of current archaeological understanding. Scientific scrutiny of the tunnels continues to yield intriguing observations. Soil composition, mineral deposits, and evidence of human-made tool marks indicate significant human interaction in parts of the network. Water channels and drainage features further hint at thoughtful engineering, designed to manage subterranean conditions over long periods. Could these features reflect a practical infrastructure, ceremonial pathways, or a combination of both? And if human hands shaped the majority of the tunnels, what was the scope of the civilization capable of such work? And why did so little else survive on the surface? The Visoko tunnels also resonate with other anomalous sites we have explored. Like the Heligoland bronze disk, they challenge the geographical and temporal assumptions about human innovation. Like the Fuente Magna bowl or Mima Mounds, they hint at hidden knowledge, preserved or partially lost, that invites both careful scientific inquiry and imaginative exploration. And like the submerged mysteries of other regions, they suggest that much of human, or perhaps pre-human, history remains inaccessible, waiting for discoveries that could reshape our understanding of the past. Ultimately, the Bosnian Visoko tunnels persist as a testament to mystery. They evoke the possibility of civilizations, knowledge, and capabilities that have been obscured by time, geology, and the limits of our investigation. Are these tunnels the product of natural geological processes, shaped and adapted by human hands over centuries? Or do they represent the remnants of a sophisticated culture whose memory has faded, leaving only stone corridors and enigmatic chambers as evidence of their existence. As explorers step cautiously through the dimly lit passages, the tunnels themselves seem to whisper stories of the past, stories of vision, ingenuity, and perhaps knowledge that existed long before recorded history. The uniformity of some walls, the precision of intersecting corridors, and the subtle presence of symbols suggest intentionality, yet the origins remain veiled in uncertainty. Each turn, each chamber, each shadowed recess challenges observers to question assumptions and consider the possibility that beneath the familiar landscapes of our world lies evidence of civilizations and achievements that predate humanity as we understand it. In the quiet of the subterranean corridors, with walls stretching into darkness and the distant echo of dripping water, the Bosnian Visoko tunnels endure as an invitation to look closely, to think critically, and to remain open to the possibility that the Earth holds secrets older and stranger than our current frameworks allow. They remind us that mystery is not merely a lack of knowledge, but a call to curiosity, a challenge to consider what may have been, what could have been, and what might still lie hidden, awaiting discovery by those willing to explore the depths of both the Earth and history itself. From the shadowed corridors of the Bosnian Visoko tunnels, where the Earth itself seems to preserve the echoes of civilizations long past, we now turn to a mystery not carved in stone, but unfolding within the fragile interface of perception, consciousness, and the unknown. Nestled in the tranquil countryside of Norfolk, England, the small village of Skål would become the site of one of the most meticulously documented and enigmatic investigations into the paranormal of the late 20th century. Known simply as the Skål experiment, these controlled sessions, conducted throughout the 1990s, would produce phenomena that continue to challenge the boundaries of explanation. At first glance, Skål is unremarkable. Low-lying cottages, scattered farmland, and the quiet hum of rural life. Yet within the walls of these ordinary homes, a group of mediums, researchers, and curious observers gathered to witness extraordinary events. The seances were not chaotic or unregulated. Rather, they were meticulously recorded. Cameras, audio recorders, and even electromagnetic monitoring equipment were employed, capturing events that defied conventional understanding. Objects moved without apparent contact, lights manifested in intricate patterns, and messages appeared on cards or surfaces as if by invisible hands. Each session was carefully documented, creating a body of evidence far more extensive than most investigations into such phenomena. The phenomena recorded at Skål are striking in their diversity. Photographs show luminous spheres hovering mid-air, streaking along defined paths, or forming delicate arrangements that suggest intentionality. In some instances, images appear on film that resemble symbols, intricate sketches, or even miniature architectural forms, manifesting spontaneously in the middle of the room. Could these shapes represent intelligent communication? Or are they the product of perceptual anomalies, light distortions, or photographic artifacts? While some scientists emphasize the need for skepticism, the repeatable and highly structured nature of the events invites consideration of explanations that lie beyond conventional frameworks. Objects, too, responded in ways that challenge conventional assumptions. Tables would tilt, sometimes slowly, sometimes abruptly, often in synchronization with the presence or focus of the mediums. Small items, cards, paper, and occasionally tools, appeared in the room without clear origin, sometimes inscribed with symbols or messages that were immediately recognized by participants as meaningful. Certain musical tones also emerged, seemingly generated without instruments, resonating with clarity and intention. These occurrences were often simultaneous, suggesting a connection between light, sound, and matter that is difficult to explain solely through psychological or environmental factors. One of the most compelling aspects of the Skål experiment was the apparent intelligence behind the manifestations. Participants consistently reported that the phenomena seemed responsive, at times guiding their actions, providing messages, or even correcting mistakes. The mediums described receiving instructions from unseen entities, which then translated into tangible outcomes. Lights moving in precise arcs, messages appearing in ink on previously blank surfaces, and objects aligning in configurations that conveyed symbolic or informative content. Could this reflect an external consciousness interacting with our reality, or a manifestation of collective human consciousness accessing layers of perception ordinarily inaccessible? Skeptics have rightly cautioned that many factors, suggestibility, unconscious manipulation, or environmental variables, could account for some of what was observed. Indeed, controlled scientific observation in intimate settings presents challenges. Human attention, expectation, and subtle motor actions can influence perception, sometimes in ways participants themselves cannot detect. Yet the sheer volume, variety, and consistency of the phenomena recorded at Skoll distinguish it from the majority of anecdotal paranormal accounts. Multiple independent witnesses observed the same events. Photographic and audio evidence documented occurrences in detail, and the patterns often appeared too structured and repetitive to dismiss entirely. The visual phenomena alone warrant careful scrutiny. Glowing spheres, sometimes referred to as orbs, appear to move with purpose, pausing, accelerating, and changing trajectory as if guided by unseen intelligence. Occasionally, photographs reveal shapes that suggest writing, symbols, or diagrams, seemingly appearing spontaneously in mid-air or on previously blank surfaces. Could these be messages intended for participants or even future observers? Or do they represent a phenomenon entirely outside our current understanding of physics, one that interacts with consciousness in ways yet to be explored? Equally intriguing are the auditory and material manifestations. Musical notes and tones emerged without identifiable sources, resonating in the rooms in patterns that appeared deliberate. Objects moved across surfaces, sometimes in defiance of gravity or expectation. In certain sessions, new objects appeared fully formed, sometimes bearing inscriptions or markings that could be interpreted as symbolic language. Each occurrence invites questions about the limits of human perception and the potential existence of intelligences or forces beyond conventional measurement. Some researchers have suggested that the Skoll phenomena might reflect an intersection between consciousness and an underlying layer of reality that modern science has yet to recognize. Could human minds, under certain conditions, tap into energies or dimensions typically imperceptible? Might the messages emerging in the sessions represent a form of communication from entities, natural forces, or even temporal echoes of consciousness itself? The evidence does not provide definitive answers, yet it repeatedly challenges observers to expand their understanding of what is possible. The environment of Skoll played a subtle but significant role in the experiences. The cottages were modest and enclosed, with muted lighting that allowed subtle visual phenomena to become perceptible. The acoustics of the rooms enhanced the resonance of sound, while the relative isolation of the village minimized external disturbances. Yet within this ordinary setting, extraordinary events unfolded, suggesting that the phenomena were not products of the environment alone, but required the interplay of human attention, consciousness, and perhaps forces yet unidentified. The Skoll experiment also evokes comparisons with other enigmatic artifacts and locations explored in our journey. Like the Bosnian Visoko tunnels, it challenges conventional timelines and assumptions about human capability and understanding. Like the Heligoland bronze disc or the Fuente Magna bowl, it hints at knowledge or interaction with forces beyond ordinary comprehension. While the Visoko tunnels were carved in stone and the disc etched in bronze, the Skoll experiment demonstrates that the mysteries of existence may not be confined to the material alone. They can emerge in perception, in consciousness, and in the spaces between observer and observed. Ultimately, the Skoll phenomena remind us that mystery is not merely a gap in knowledge, but a challenge to understanding. The lights, sounds, and movements observed in Skoll suggest the presence of intelligences, forces, or mechanisms that interact with our reality in structured and coherent ways. They compel us to question the boundaries of what we consider real, what constitutes evidence, and how human consciousness might interact with phenomena beyond ordinary perception. As participants in those sessions often reflected, the experience was as much about observation as it was about openness. Stepping into the dimly lit rooms, with walls echoing faintly from the resonance of unseen activity, one cannot help but sense that the environment itself is alive with possibility. Could these phenomena represent a layer of reality that has existed alongside humanity for millennia, untouched and unnoticed, awaiting conditions where perception and awareness align? Or do they emerge from the depths of human cognition, revealing the latent capacities of our consciousness to interface with dimensions yet uncharted? In the stillness of Skoll, the phenomena lingered, visible in fleeting lights, audible in ephemeral tones, and tangible in the movement of objects. The experiment continues to be a source of fascination, debate, and investigation, reminding us that the universe contains mysteries that are both subtle and profound. Just as the tunnels, artifacts, and inscriptions we have explored suggest that the past may hold knowledge older than humanity, so too does the Skoll experiment hint that consciousness, perception, and perhaps even unseen intelligences could be part of a broader tapestry of existence, one that challenges our assumptions, stretches our curiosity, and invites us to explore the boundaries of reality itself. The question remains open. Are the Skoll phenomena evidence of external intelligences, a bridge to understanding forces beyond our material world, or manifestations of human consciousness interacting with dimensions we have yet to comprehend? And if such phenomena are possible in the ordinary homes of a small Norfolk village, what other enigmas might exist, quietly unfolding, unnoticed, in the hidden corners of our world? The Skoll experiment endures, a quiet invitation to consider that reality may be far stranger, richer, and more mysterious than we have ever dared to imagine. From the remote highlands and cloud forests of Peru, where the Chachapoya vanished into mist and legend, we journey now across oceans and continents to the sun-drenched coastline of Brazil, where the city of Rio de Janeiro rises against the Atlantic horizon. Dominating the landscape is a colossal granite monolith, a sentinel of stone known as Pedra da Gávea. Rising more than 840 meters above sea level, its sheer cliffs and dramatic profile cast shadows over the surrounding rainforest, while its summit, often shrouded in mist, seems to touch the sky itself. For centuries, travelers, explorers, and locals have been captivated by the monolith's imposing presence, and by the enigmatic markings that some claim are carved into its massive face. Pedra da Gávea is a natural formation, yet within its smooth expanses of granite, observers have reported shapes and inscriptions that appear far too deliberate to be purely coincidental. Among the most debated are a series of symbols near the summit, sometimes described as resembling letters or glyphs. These markings, faint and weathered, are partially obscured by erosion, moss, and shadow, but to the careful observer, they suggest patterns that imply intention and meaning. Could these symbols be evidence of an ancient civilization, capable of monumental stone carving long before the arrival of Europeans in South America? Or are they the product of natural processes, mere pareidolia, the human tendency to perceive meaningful patterns where none exist? Historical accounts of Pedra da Gávea's inscriptions first emerged in the 19th century, when European explorers and scientists surveyed the region. Some early travelers described the symbols as reminiscent of Phoenician or other Semitic scripts, hinting at a tantalizing, if controversial, possibility that transoceanic contact occurred long before the age of exploration. Others argued that such interpretations were fanciful, driven by wishful thinking and a desire to link the Americas to the ancient civilizations of the Old World. Yet the debate persisted, in part because the inscriptions themselves resist simple classification. They do not match any single known alphabet perfectly, nor do they conform neatly to natural fracture patterns or weathering alone. Archaeological investigation has been hampered by the monolith's sheer scale and remote summit. Climbing Pedra da Gavia is challenging even under ideal conditions, and photographing the inscriptions in detail requires careful planning, timing, and sometimes specialized equipment. Nonetheless, those who have studied the markings closely note certain consistencies. Straight lines intersecting at angles, shapes resembling angular glyphs, and arrangements that suggest an underlying logic. Could these characteristics represent a script, a symbolic map, or some form of record? Or are they artifacts of human pattern recognition, a mind reading intention into the randomness of erosion and natural fracturing? Adding to the intrigue is the monolith itself. While many scholars consider Pedra da Gavia a purely geological formation, its profile and features have inspired speculation for centuries. Some observers note a vaguely humanoid shape, with a forehead, nose, and mouth, leading to the nickname the face of Pedra da Gavia. From certain angles, the rock appears deliberately sculpted, as if an ancient hand had shaped it to resemble a sentinel watching over the bay below. Could this be a natural coincidence, a result of differential weathering and granite fracturing over millennia? Or might it hint at human intervention in shaping the landscape, either in symbolic homage to deities or as part of a lost, technologically capable culture? The debate over the inscriptions intersects with broader questions of human history and ancient knowledge. If the markings are genuine, who might have carved them, and why? Some fringe theories suggest contact between Old World civilizations, such as the Phoenicians, Egyptians, or even distant Mediterranean cultures, and pre-Columbian South America. Mainstream archaeology remains cautious, emphasizing the need for physical evidence beyond visual interpretation, tools, artifacts, or corroborating cultural markers that could substantiate transoceanic contact. Yet the very existence of the debate demonstrates how a single enigmatic feature can provoke questions that ripple far beyond the granite of a mountain. The monolith also sits within a larger landscape, rich with cultural and ecological significance. The surrounding Tijuca forest, one of the largest urban rainforests in the world, has preserved both biodiversity and the traces of human activity for centuries. Early indigenous populations inhabited the area, leaving behind evidence of settlements, tools, and ritual sites. Could the carvings atop Pedra da Gavia reflect indigenous knowledge, perhaps symbolic representations of cosmology or territorial markers, rather than contact with Old World civilizations? Or might they represent a convergence of possibilities? Ancient knowledge transmitted through generations, now partially obscured by time and natural erosion. Photographic evidence and close visual inspection are not enough to resolve the debate. Different angles, varying light conditions, and seasonal shifts in vegetation all affect how the inscriptions appear. Some photographs reveal lines that seem precise and deliberate, while others, taken from a slightly different perspective, suggest random fracture patterns. Could the ambiguity itself be meaningful, reflecting the limitations of human perception in confronting geological and historical phenomena? Or is it simply a reminder that the interplay of time, erosion, and interpretation can create illusions of intent where none exists? The cultural impact of Pedra da Gavia is equally compelling. Local legends speak of spirits inhabiting the mountain, of hidden treasures, and of encounters with enigmatic figures on its slopes. These stories may be folklore, yet they reinforce the monolith's role as a locus of mystery and fascination. Visitors report an eerie, almost magnetic presence when standing near the summit. The wind howls through natural fissures, clouds swirl unpredictably, and the city below seems distant and unreal. Could this environment have influenced those who may have carved the inscriptions, inspiring symbolic or religious expression in a location charged with natural power? Or does the mountain itself act as a stage upon which human imagination projects meaning and significance? The controversy over the inscriptions is emblematic of broader challenges in archaeology and history. Pedra da Gavia invites us to consider not only what might have been carved or shaped, but also how humans interpret evidence across millennia. It reminds us that the line between natural and artificial, between coincidence and intent, is often blurred. Every fracture, every weathered line, every angle of shadow and light is subject to interpretation, and yet each may carry a whisper of knowledge from a distant past, whether human, natural, or something altogether more enigmatic. Researchers continue to debate, climb, and photograph the monolith, yet the questions remain unresolved. Were the symbols carved intentionally by an ancient hand? And if so, by whom? Could they represent an unrecognized language, a symbolic map, or an esoteric message now lost to history? Or are they merely illusions, products of time, perception, and the human inclination to find meaning where the eye perceives pattern? Each hypothesis opens further lines of inquiry, reinforcing the sense that Pedra da Gavia is not merely a geological curiosity, but a window into the enduring tension between evidence and interpretation, certainty and mystery. Pedra da Gavia thus occupies a liminal space, a physical presence grounded in the rainforest and sky, yet a conceptual nexus for human curiosity. Its inscriptions and shapes challenge observers to ask questions about human capability, the transmission of knowledge, and the intersection of natural and cultural processes. Just as the cloud warriors of Peru and the tunnels beneath Visoko provoke contemplation about civilizations lost or obscured, so too does this monolith invite speculation about knowledge, presence, and intent long before modern record-keeping. The debate over Pedra da Gavia is ongoing because it touches on more than archaeology. It touches on imagination, perception, and the human desire to connect with something older and more profound than ourselves. Standing at the base of the monolith, looking up at the weathered face and the faint markings near the summit, one cannot help but wonder, do these lines represent communication from a long-forgotten culture, an attempt to assert meaning over an awe-inspiring landscape? Or are they simply the product of time, erosion, and human pattern recognition? Perhaps the answer lies somewhere in between, in the interplay of natural forces and human curiosity, each shaping the way we perceive the past. In reflecting on Pedra da Gavia, we are reminded that mystery is rarely found in isolation. Each enigmatic feature, whether an inscription, a monument, or an artifact, exists within a broader landscape of questions, gaps, and speculative connections. And as observers, historians, archaeologists, or simply curious minds, we are invited not only to document and analyze, but also to wonder, to consider the possibilities of human ingenuity and the subtle imprints of civilizations that may have left traces in ways both tangible and ephemeral. The inscriptions on Pedra da Gavia remain a mystery. They could be signs of a lost civilization, unknown contact, or simply natural markings misinterpreted. The mountain stands silent, inviting us to keep questioning and wondering about the secrets time and nature may still hide. From the unexplained manifestations of consciousness in Skål, England, we now journey thousands of miles west to the mist-shrouded highlands of Peru, where the Andes rise like sentinels above the cloud forests. Here, nestled in the isolated valleys of the Amazonas region, once thrived a civilization both remarkable and mysterious. The Chachapoya, often called the Cloud Warriors, for their mastery of the rugged highlands and their elusive presence among the clouds. Despite leaving behind monumental architecture, fortified citadels, and elaborate tombs, the story of the Chachapoya is punctuated by sudden gaps, abrupt disappearances, and questions that continue to confound historians and archaeologists. The terrain itself is formidable. Towering cliffs, deep ravines, and dense cloud forests isolate settlements in natural fortresses, making them difficult to access even for modern explorers. The Chachapoya chose these sites deliberately, constructing cities such as Quaylop atop cliffs that soar hundreds of meters above the surrounding valleys. From these heights, the stone walls of their settlements extend with precision and symmetry, forming terraces, towers, and defensive fortifications that appear both strategic and ceremonial. The sheer scale of these constructions, combined with their placement in near inaccessible locations, has led scholars to marvel at the organizational and engineering prowess of a society often considered peripheral in the broader narrative of pre-Columbian South America. Yet, as striking as their architecture is, it is the gaps in the Chachapoya story that generate true intrigue. Written records from the Inca, who eventually conquered the region in the late 15th century, provide tantalizing fragments, accounts of a fiercely independent people, skilled in warfare, resistant to conquest, and intimately familiar with their harsh environment. However, beyond these brief notes, little is known about their daily life, political structures, or spiritual practices. Archaeological evidence fills some gaps, yet even here, mysteries abound. How did the Chachapoya sustain such a population in isolated highlands? What agricultural, technological, or trade networks allowed them to thrive in such difficult terrain? And most perplexingly, why did their civilization seemingly vanish, leaving only the echoes of stone walls, tombs, and artifacts? One of the most compelling features of the Chachapoya is their funerary practice. In remote cliffs, they carved sarcophagi into rock faces, often positioned in places inaccessible to potential grave robbers. Within these burial chambers, archaeologists have discovered remarkably preserved mummies, wrapped in textiles and accompanied by objects that hint at both material wealth and ritual significance. Yet these mummies themselves provoke questions. Many show evidence of rapid burial or sudden cessation of activity, suggesting that the Chachapoya may have faced abrupt disruption, conflict, disease, or environmental catastrophe that remains poorly understood. How could a civilization so skilled in fortification and adaptation succumb with such apparent suddenness? The culture's military prowess, hinted at by the Inca and by the strategic placement of settlements, adds another layer to the mystery. Referred to as cloud warriors, the Chachapoya are described as agile, well-organized, and formidable in battle. Their fortified cities, often positioned on cliff edges with commanding views of the valleys below, reflect a society deeply attuned to both terrain and strategy. Yet while their martial abilities are acknowledged, historical accounts provide little detail about the conflicts themselves. Did warfare contribute to their disappearance, or were other forces at play? Could there have been encounters with rival groups, incursions by external civilizations, or even environmental pressures that hastened their decline? The enigmatic nature of the Chachapoya is further amplified by the artifacts they left behind. Pottery, textiles, and ceremonial objects demonstrate both aesthetic refinement and symbolic complexity. Some ceramics display intricate geometric patterns or depictions of animals and human figures, raising questions about the stories, myths, or spiritual beliefs that guided their society. Yet these objects, while beautiful and informative, provide only glimpses into a culture whose full narrative remains obscured. The combination of material sophistication and historical opacity suggests a civilization whose knowledge and traditions may have been far more advanced than we can presently comprehend. Environmental factors also play a role in the gaps that puzzle researchers. The cloud forests are dynamic ecosystems, prone to landslides, floods, and vegetation overgrowth, which can obscure settlements and artifacts for centuries. Could portions of Chachapoya history remain hidden in areas yet unexplored, their stories buried beneath forest canopies or collapsed cliff faces? Remote sensing and drone surveys have begun to reveal structures previously unknown, hinting at a network of settlements and infrastructure that may have been extensive, perhaps rivaling better documented civilizations of the region. Each discovery underscores how much remains to be learned, and how much of their story may forever be lost to the impenetrable forests. The gaps in the Chachapoya record are mirrored by broader questions of human migration and cultural exchange in pre-Columbian South America. How isolated were the Cloud Warriors, and to what extent did they interact with neighboring cultures, such as the Inca or earlier civilizations? Could some of their knowledge, technology, or spiritual practices have been transmitted orally or symbolically, leaving traces in patterns of construction, burial rites, or ritual artifacts? Or did their culture develop largely independently in a highland laboratory of human ingenuity shaped by terrain, isolation, and environmental pressures? These questions remain unresolved, leaving historians to speculate with cautious fascination. Another element deepening the mystery is the suddenness with which the Chachapoya disappear from written and oral records. Following the Inca conquest, the population appears to have been absorbed, displaced, or diminished. Yet traces of resistance, rebellion, and continued occupation suggest that the Chachapoya did not vanish entirely overnight. Could disease, forced migration, or socio-political restructuring have disrupted their society in ways that permanently fractured cultural continuity? And if so, what knowledge, skills, or traditions were lost in the process? Knowledge that might have illuminated aspects of human capability in challenging environments long before the modern era? The Cloud Warriors also prompt reflection on broader patterns of human history. Like other enigmatic sites and artifacts explored in this series, from the Visoko tunnels to the Skoll experiment, the Chachapoya challenge assumptions about human capability, adaptation, and survival. They suggest that advanced knowledge, architectural, agricultural, or strategic, may have existed in isolated pockets, often leaving only fragmentary evidence. Each stone wall, each cliffside sarcophagus, each textile or ceramic fragment stands as a reminder of what can endure when written records vanish, and memory is transmitted only through subtle traces in the landscape. Yet perhaps the most haunting aspect of the Chachapoya is what we will never know. Their disappearance leaves gaps that may never be filled, inviting us to confront the limitations of archaeology, history, and interpretation. How much knowledge has been irretrievably lost, and how much might still lie hidden in the inaccessible valleys and mist-draped cliffs? Could there be sites yet undiscovered, artifacts yet unexamined, waiting to illuminate the mysteries of this cloud-shrouded people? And if so, what might these remnants reveal? Not just about the Chachapoya themselves, but about the resilience, ingenuity, and adaptability of humanity in the face of extreme environments. As explorers ascend the terraces of Quaylop, or peer into the niches carved into steep cliffs, there is a sense of quiet awe. The stone walls, weathered by centuries of wind and rain, convey a narrative of precision, skill, and intentionality. Yet the story is incomplete. Each doorway, each tower, each ceremonial platform leaves unanswered questions. Why was it built? Who used it? And what meaning did it hold? And beyond these physical structures, what of the intangible cultural memory, the rituals, songs, or oral histories that may have vanished entirely, leaving only stone and silence as witnesses? In contemplating the Chachapoya, we are reminded that mystery is not merely the absence of knowledge, but the presence of questions that continue to challenge perception, interpretation, and understanding. The Cloud Warriors endured in a landscape of isolation, engineering marvels in impossible terrain, leaving a legacy of skill and vision. And yet, the sudden gaps in their history, the abrupt cessation of documented activity, the disappearance of cohesive cultural continuity invite reflection on the fragility and impermanence of civilizations, even those capable of extraordinary adaptation and ingenuity. As the mist drifts over the highland valleys and sunlight flickers across cliffside sarcophagi, the Chachapoya remain elusive. Their story, partially told and partially lost, evokes curiosity, speculation, and wonder. Were they victims of conquest, disease, or environmental catastrophe? Or did the clouds themselves obscure a culture whose knowledge and accomplishments were destined to vanish from memory? Each question is a thread, drawing observers deeper into contemplation of what might have been, and what still might be hidden, quietly preserved by the clouds, the stones, and the forests of the Andes. From the mist-shrouded monoliths of Brazil and the ancient enigma of the Chachapoya, we now travel north across the Atlantic to the remote, wind-swept archipelago of Shetland, perched at the very edge of Scotland. Here, where cliffs plunge into turbulent seas and the North Atlantic wind whistles across moors and fjords, local folklore tells of beings that inhabit the liminal spaces between the natural and the supernatural, the wolvers. These mysterious creatures, said to have the bodies of humans but the heads of wolves, are woven into the oral history of Shetland, passed down through generations of islanders who have lived in constant proximity to the untamed wilderness. The landscape itself is as compelling as the stories. Shetland's topography, craggy hills, narrow valleys, and sprawling coastal cliffs, creates a labyrinthine world where isolation can distort perception, and where an observer might glimpse the impossible and still question its reality. Coastal fogs curl around rocky promontories, waves crash against basalt cliffs, and the sharp tang of salt water hangs perpetually in the air. It is within this elemental, almost primeval environment that wolver sightings have been reported, often at dusk or during the dim light of early morning. Witnesses describe seeing the creatures walking along the shoreline, fishing in the streams, or sitting quietly on rocks, as if entirely at ease within their rugged domain. Accounts consistently describe wolvers as humanoid in stature but with distinctly lupine heads. Their fur is usually dark, their eyes keen and penetrating, and their posture upright, though their movements retain a subtle animal grace. Perhaps most intriguing is the behavior reported. Wolvers are rarely aggressive toward humans. Instead, they are often seen quietly engaging in ordinary activities, fishing with crude implements, carrying food, or tending to the environment around them. Islanders have long noted that the wolvers appear to live harmoniously within the harsh landscape, their presence seemingly intertwined with the natural rhythm of the islands. Historical documentation of wolver sightings is scarce but persistent. In the 18th and 19th centuries, folklorists and naturalists visiting Shetland collected stories from islanders who claimed to have seen these beings. In journals and letters, observers described small humanoid figures with wolf-like features moving along the cliffs and moors. The accounts are often sober in tone. Many islanders insisted they were neither hallucinations nor fanciful tales, but eyewitness experiences passed down from earlier generations. Could these consistent reports across time indicate an actual phenomenon, a relict population of an unknown hominid species, or even a form of cryptid uniquely adapted to the Shetland environment? Skeptics argue for folkloric origins, noting that Shetland, like many isolated communities, has a rich tapestry of myth in which human and animal traits intertwine. Were the wolvers a narrative device, a cautionary tale, or an embodiment of the relationship between islanders and the wild? Perhaps. Yet what sets the wolvers apart from other regional legends is the consistency of eyewitness accounts. People from disparate communities, separated by islands and decades, often describe remarkably similar features and behaviors. Could this convergence suggest that wolvers were once more widespread and have survived in obscurity, or is it simply an example of folklore crystallizing in a culture that interprets the wild through shared imagery? Some theorists propose a biological explanation. Could the Wolvers represent a population of humans with a congenital condition, or even an isolated, unknown hominid lineage that evolved alongside humans in northern Europe? The island's isolation, combined with a challenging environment, could theoretically allow for unique adaptations. Yet no physical evidence, bones, hair samples, or footprints, has been conclusively linked to Wolvers. The absence of tangible remains deepens the mystery, forcing observers to rely almost entirely on anecdotal testimony and local oral tradition. Adding to the intrigue are stories of the Wolvers' interactions with humans. Numerous accounts describe them leaving fish at the doorsteps of island cottages, especially during harsh winters, a behavior interpreted as benevolent and almost ritualistic. Islanders speak of the Wolvers as guardians of the wild, creatures whose presence maintains the balance between humans and nature. If these behaviors are rooted in reality, what motivates them? Is it instinct, intelligence, or something beyond our understanding? And why would beings capable of interacting in such deliberate ways remain so elusive, never leaving definitive evidence of their existence? The Shetland environment itself may provide clues. The island's cliffs, caves, and hidden valleys offer countless refuges, many inaccessible to humans without specialized climbing. Skills. Could such terrain sustain a small population of elusive beings over centuries? Reports often describe Wolvers retreating into caves or disappearing into dense moorlands at the approach of humans. This pattern of behavior, observed consistently across generations, suggests adaptation to isolation and an awareness of human presence, characteristics that might support a cryptid or relict hypothesis. Anthropologists and cryptozoologists alike have speculated on the origins of the Wolvers. Some suggest that they may be descendants of ancient werewolf myths, preserved and localized to the island's environment. Others propose that the accounts are exaggerations or distortions of real, yet misunderstood encounters with wolves or other wildlife. But could there be a deeper explanation? Might the Wolvers represent a form of human-animal hybridization, cultural, genetic, or spiritual, that survives in isolated pockets, unseen by the modern world? The scarcity of definitive evidence does not eliminate the possibility. Rather, it invites further investigation, careful observation, and respect for the unknown. The behavioral patterns attributed to Wolvers are particularly compelling. Descriptions consistently emphasize their quiet, almost ritualistic activities, their solitary or small group movements, and a seeming purposefulness in their interactions with the environment. Could these behaviors indicate an intelligence distinct from humans, but adapted to a parallel ecological niche? Or are they the projection of human imagination onto the natural rhythms of the islands, an intersection of folklore, environmental observation, and mythic thinking? Each interpretation carries weight, yet none resolves the central enigma. If Wolvers exist, why do they leave so little physical trace? And how have they persisted unnoticed for centuries? Exploring the Shetland Islands today, one encounters landscapes that have changed little over centuries. Narrow stone pathways, remnants of Norse settlements, and coastal cliffs battered by centuries of storms create a sense of temporal suspension. It is easy to imagine why stories of Wolvers endure. The islands themselves, harsh and isolating, create a theater in which the imagination can take shape. Yet the repeated and consistent accounts, coupled with the reported benevolence of the creatures, suggest something more than mere fantasy. Could human observation, tradition, and memory preserve the echo of a real phenomenon, even if the beings themselves remain elusive? The Wolver reports also invite reflection on the broader relationship between humanity and the unknown. Like other mysteries we have explored, the tunnels of Visoko, the inscriptions of Pedra da Gavea, and the cloud forests of Peru, the Wolvers straddle the boundary between empirical observation and narrative interpretation. They remind us that isolation, environmental pressure, and human imagination can converge to produce stories that are neither purely myth nor entirely verifiable. They also underscore a recurring theme in the study of the unexplained, the persistence of gaps in our knowledge, and the tantalizing suggestion that some questions may never be fully answered. What is clear is that the Wolvers endure in cultural memory because they evoke a profound tension between familiarity and strangeness. They resemble humans, yet they are not. They inhabit landscapes we can navigate, yet they seem to belong to a world just beyond perception. And they continue to provoke questions about adaptation, survival, and the limits of human understanding. Could beings like the Wolvers exist at the margins of perception, occupying ecological and mythic niches simultaneously? Or are they purely the product of a collective imagination, a symbol of the island's untamed wildness encoded in story over centuries? As the wind howls across Shetland's cliffs and the Atlantic waves crash against basalt outcrops, one senses that the Wolvers' mystery is inseparable from the landscape itself. The moors, cliffs, and hidden valleys are both stage and character in the unfolding drama of observation, legend, and speculation. Each sighting, each story, each whispered account contributes to a complex web that resists simple explanation. And like the Chachapoya or Pedra de Gavia inscriptions, the Wolvers ask us to confront uncertainty, to embrace ambiguity, and to wonder at the vastness of human, and perhaps non-human, experience that remains beyond our comprehension. The legend of the Wolver reflects the enduring power of mystery, blending observation, environment, and cultural memory. Sightings in the Shetland Islands suggest something that challenges conventional explanation while remaining elusive. Like the cloud forests of Peru and the inscriptions on Pedra de Gavia, isolated places preserve both secrets and imagination. These mysteries invite us to observe closely, question deeply, and remain open to the unknown.